Chapter 964. With that, Qing Yishuan's slender figure gradually appeared where Jianqin was looking at. She stared at the emperor and Zhou Yunzi lying in pools of blood without blinking. Her face was filled with shock and uncontainable shock. The emperor and Zhou Yunzi were the 8 human experts of the Sea Realm. They were at the same level of cultivation as her, the 5th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. Whether it was in the Sea Realm or on the Tianyuan continent, there were supreme experts that were rarely seen. Yet 2 such experts had been slain by Jianqin so easily. The process was as simple as crushing ants, which was difficult for Qing Yishuan to accept. Her heart churned as she struggled to remain calm. Jianqin stared at Qing Yishuan calmly and emotionlessly said, "Qing Yishuan, this is an important place of my turtle clan. What are your intentions for trespassing here? State your intentions, or I can only personally chase you out." Jianqin's emotions changed slightly under the influence of the Grand Elder of the Turtle Clan. He was no longer as polite as before. A sliver of anger immediately appeared on Qing Yishuan's face when she heard Jianqin's threatening words. However, when she thought about how the emperor and Zhou Yunzi had died to Jianqin's hands, she forcefully suppressed her anger. Qing Yishuan sucked in a deep breath and slowly calmed herself down. She then looked at Jianqin with mixed feelings and said gently, "There are some things that I want to talk to you about alone." Jianqin hesitated slightly with that, but he still nodded in the end. He said, "Come with me." Jianqin immediately flew off into the distance. Jianqin and Qing Yishuan arrived 10 kilometers away. Jianqin crossed his arms and turned his back to Qing Yishuan. He stared at the mountains in the distance in a daze and said, "Tell me, what do you want to talk to me about?" Qing Yishuan's eyes shone as she stared at Jianqin's back. She said, "I hope you can help me deal with the Tao family." The Tao family? Or one of the peak clans in the territory of the Poseidon Hall? A sliver of surprise appeared in Jianqin's eyes. Correct, it's one of the peak clans in the territory of the Poseidon Hall, the Tao family. The old patriarch of the Tao family has something that I need very much. I want you to deal with the Tao family and obtain it for me, said Qing Yishuan. The Tao family is a powerful peak clan, and I have no grievances with them. So why should I help you deal with them? Why would I offend a peak clan for no good reason? Jianqin sneered. Qing Yishuan gritted her teeth and said, "Back when I stole the map fragment of the 8 wastelands, I wanted to exchange it for that item from the old patriarch of the Tao family. Originally, I had already obtained it, but you stole it away in a despicable manner, making all my efforts go to waste. And when you entered the divine hall of the 8 wastelands with the map fragment, you benefited extremely greatly. Not only did you obtain an emperor armament, but you even obtained the divine hall of the 8 wastelands. The reason why you were able to obtain these items and possess your current strength is all thanks to me. If I had not taken the map fragment of the 8 wastelands from Ancestor Hao Jia at the risk of being heavily injured, do you really think you could contend against 15-star or even 16th-star experts with your strength back then?" Jianqin thought about it and said, "Qing Yishuan, what you said does seem to make sense. However, I only managed to steal the map fragment of the 8 wastelands from you because of my own strength. At the same time, my turtle clan is currently expanding. Just recovering the crystal mine has already offended many clans and organizations. So I won't help you deal with the Tao family at a crucial time like this. However, you can contact the other 8 masters of the human clan and ask them to assist you." Jianqin, it looks like you still don't understand the laws of survival for us outsiders in the Sea Realm. On the surface, I'm a guest elder of the Poseidon Hall and possess a certain amount of status. But if I do anything out of line in the territory of the Hall, the first people to punish me will probably be the Hall elders of the Hall. They will never allow us outsiders to run amok in their territory. Qing Yishuan's eyes stared at Jianqin as she stared at him. Qing Yishuan stared at Jianqin with shining eyes and continued, "But you're different. I can feel that your status in the Sea Goddess Hall is different from us guest elders." if you take action, the Sea Goddess Hall will never make things difficult for you. Qing Yishuan, I'll say the same thing again. I won't offend a powerful clan for something as trivial as you. Although I'm not afraid, I need to think about the people of my tribe. Farewell." With that, Jianqin turned around and left. Qing Yishuan panicked and said, "Jianqin, if you help me obtain that item, I'll agree to do 10 things within my power for you." However, Jianqin left without even looking back. Qing Yishuan's offer was not enough to tempt Jianqin at all. Qing Yishuan clenched her teeth as she watched Jianqin vanish. Her beautiful face was filled with anger, but there was also some helplessness and disappointment. Jianqin returned to the clan with the people of the Turtle Clan after the ceremony to avenge the Grand Elder. Afterward, he immediately sent out Lan Jing, Xanpian, Mokas, and Taido to lead a group of experts in the clan to continue with the plan to reclaim the crystal mines. With the assistance of the 3 disciplinary elders, the rate at which the Turtle Clan collected the crystal mines increased drastically. They recovered half of the mines that had been stolen from them all those years ago very quickly, allowing the heritage of the Turtle Clan to become even deeper. Jianqin, who watched over the Turtle Clan, finally had some free time. He could live a relaxed life now. He no longer had to run around all day and risk his life for survival. This was because he was no longer the weakling who had been chased around by 15-star experts a few years ago. Now he possessed the ability to look down on the entire Sea Realm. Jianqin could not help but begin to miss home now that he was free. Unknowingly, it had already been several years since he had arrived in the Sea Realm. He had no idea what had happened on the Tianyuan continent during those years. With the Emperor armament in hand, I can fend off peak experts at the 7th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. With the protection of the 8 Wastelands Divine Hall, it's difficult for anyone below the Holy Emperor to harm me. Now that I have enough strength to fend off the 10 protector clans, it's time for me to go back and take a look, Jianqin murmured as he stood in a garden. His eyes were filled with reminiscence. Now that I've become a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master, I can bring the dead back to life. My parents' remains are still in Mercenary City, waiting for me to save them. There's also the White Tiger's mother, Rum Guinness. She needs me to heal her as a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master. Sigh, it's time for me to go back and take a look. So many years have passed. I wonder how the Flame Mercenaries are doing. They must have become even more powerful than before under the management of you and Lien. Flame City should have been completed as well. I wonder just how great of an uproar the appearance of this city will cause on the Tianyuan continent. Jianqin strolled through the garden of the Turtle Clan as he murmured to himself. The reminiscence in his eyes became heavier and heavier, making it even harder for him to control himself. 3 days later, Jianqin left the Turtle Clan after handing over some matters. He did not take Xanpian, Lanjing, and Mokas with him. Instead, he left them in the Turtle Clan to watch over them, just in case the clan suffered retribution from powerful enemies. Jianqin flew straight into the sky with surging emotions. He arrived at the edge of the protective barrier of the Sea Realm very soon and was about to cross it and leave. Jianqin, remember, you have to find a host for the bead within the time limit. You have to return to the Sea Realm when the worldly ebb arrives. Poseidon's voice suddenly rang out in Jianqin's head. Poseidon's figure had suddenly appeared in the faint blue barrier before him. He seemed to have completely fused with the barrier, where only a blurry figure could be seen. Jianqin solemnly nodded. "Don't worry, Your Majesty. I will definitely complete your request." Poseidon continued, "Jianqin, if you come across enemies you can't defeat on the Tianyuan continent, go to Mercenary City. The protective barrier of Mercenary City is extremely powerful. It will help you block enemies you cannot defeat." Jianqin was secretly shocked when he heard that. He could not help but think of Xiaoling's innocent face. He struggled to imagine that Xiaoling, who seemed like a mischievous girl, would actually be so powerful. Xiaoling was actually able to block opponents he could not defeat. Looks like Shaoling's strength has reached the level of the Holy Emperor at the very least, Jianchen thought inside. Jianchen flew out of the protective barrier of the sea race. As soon as he emerged, he immediately submerged himself in the icy water outside the barrier. Without any hesitation, he turned into an arrow and shot upward with lightning speed. There were no clouds in the sky for thousands of miles. It was an azure blue, and there was only a golden sun that was emitting a light that no one could look directly at. It illuminated the earth, providing light between heaven and earth. The surface of the sea was calm. The deep blue water seemed to be connected to the sky, as if it had fused with the world. It was impossible to see the end of it. At this moment, the calm surface of the sea suddenly began to ripple. The water suddenly exploded, forming a large splash that shot out in all directions. It was like a blooming blue flower. At the center of the flower, a figure shot out of the water with lightning-like speed. He was extremely fast, reaching several thousand meters in the air in a single moment. He had become a black, even smaller than an ant. The figure was Jianchen, who had just left the sea realm. Jianchen hovered several thousand meters in the air as he slowly closed his eyes. He spread his arms as he lay in the air with an intoxicated expression, allowing the warm sunlight to fall on him. Cute sun's long-awaited warmth. How long has it been since I last felt your existence? Jianchen murmured. His voice was filled with unconcealable excitement. Chapter 965. Jianchen slowly calmed his excitement as he hovered in the air above the sea realm. Afterward, a golden light shot out from between his eyebrows and landed in his hand, forming a golden tower. With a flash of white light, the white tiger, which had become the size of a kitten, left the artifact space, appearing before Jianchen out of nowhere. After being trapped in the artifact space for 5 years, the white tiger was obviously extremely excited when it finally left. It immediately produced an excited cry as it flapped its wings and flew around Jianchen happily. It constantly revolved around him. Jianchen was affected by the white tiger's happiness as well. He could not help but smile from the bottom of his heart. The white tiger finally returned to Jianchen's shoulder after playing around enough. It constantly looked around with its bright and innocent eyes. It was filled with curiosity as it jumped around on Jianchen's shoulders from time to time. In the past, when the white tiger's identity had been exposed, Jianchen could only keep the white tiger in the artifact space to protect it. Now that his strength had increased, he was no longer the weakling he once was. He possessed the power to protect himself and the white tiger, so he no longer needed to keep the white tiger in the artifact space like before. At the same time, the white tiger had already become a Class 7 magical beast. Its battle prowess as a divine beast far exceeded all beasts of antiquity, so possessed the ability to protect itself. There were very few saint rulers who could threaten it. Jianchen allowed the white tiger to play around on his shoulder. He used the sun in the sky as a guide to determine the direction before fusing with the surrounding space. Using spatial force, he flew toward the Tianyuan continent with lightning-like speed. Tearing through space was a technique only Holy Emperor could use. Although Jianchen possessed the battle prowess of a 7th heavenly layer Holy Emperor, his comprehension of the mysteries of the world was far too low. Only after devouring the soul of the blood demon emperor in the 8 wastelands divine hall had Jianchen's comprehension of the mysteries of the world had reached the 7th heavenly layer. He was still quite a distance away from the Holy Emperor's level. As a result, Jianchen was unable to create a space gate even though he possessed the battle prowess of a 7th heavenly layer Holy Emperor. There was no sense of direction on the ocean. Jianchen used the sun as a guide to determine his direction as he quickly flew through the vast ocean. After 2 days of travel, a huge island appeared in Jianchen's vision. Even though it was very far away, Jianchen could still clearly see a stone tablet on the island with his eyesight. 3 large words were written on the tablet: 3 Saint Island. Unknowingly, Jianchen had already arrived on 3 Saint Island. The moment he saw the island, he could not help but think of the heavenly enchantress figure as well as everything he had experienced with her on Dragon Island in the illusory Star Sea, as well as the dreamlike scenes he had experienced with the heavenly enchantress. Jianchen, subconsciously, slowed down. He could not help but land on Three Saint Island before making his way through the forest. There was a city on Three Saint Island where a few native fishermen lived. Jianchen entered the city on foot, admiring the scenery that was completely different from the Tianyuan continent along the way. The people who lived on Three Saint Island made a living by fishing. Almost all of them were experts at fishing. At the same time, there were quite a few cultivators, ranging from the weakest who had not even condensed a saint weapon to Earth Saint Masters. Almost all the people on Three Saint Island lived like hermits. They knew about the existence of the Tianyuan continent and had seen a few people from the Tianyuan continent, but they had never set foot on the Tianyuan continent before. This was because the distance between the two continents was so great that even Heaven Saint Masters would struggle to cross over. Moreover, it was easy to get lost in the vast ocean if one was not careful. As a result, the conflicts on the Tianyuan continent did not affect Three Saint Island at all. As a result, the people there remained simple and honest. All of them smiled innocently. As soon as Jianchen entered the city as an outsider, he was immediately recognized by the natives of Three Saint Island. Immediately, a few young men who seemed to be around his age gathered around him. They greeted Jianchen warmly as they asked him all sorts of questions. The young men were not powerful. The most powerful among them had only just reached Great Saint, but Jianchen did not put on any airs at all. He conversed with them with a smile and explained quite a lot about the Tianyuan continent. Since you've come from the Tianyuan continent, you must possess the strength to cross the ocean. You must be a Heaven Saint Master. Wow, a Heaven Saint Master. That's equivalent to the elders of Three Saint Island. You don't seem very old, yet you've already reached that level. You really do make us envious. The young men chattered as they surrounded Jianchen. At this moment, Jianchen said, I've answered so many of your questions, so shouldn't you answer a few of mine? Feel free to ask. As long as it's something we know, we won't hide it from you. A young man patted his chest and said, I want to know about your island master. Jianchen casually asked as he looked at Three Saint Mountain in the distance. As soon as they heard the island master of Three Saint Island, the young men's eyes lit up. They immediately began to talk about the island master of Three Saint Island. Their gazes were filled with undisguised respect that came from the bottom of their hearts. Jianchen gained a better understanding of the heavenly enchantress passed from them. When he was unable to obtain any more useful information from the young men, he bid farewell to them and directly flew toward Three Saint Mountain. Jianchen no longer concealed his presence after arriving at Three Saint Mountain. A powerful presence immediately radiated from him, but it was only at the level of a saint ruler. Shao Qian and Xiao Yu immediately emerged from their caves when they sensed the arrival of a saint ruler. They recognized Jianchen from afar and said, So it's young Master Jianchen who has suddenly come for a visit. Jianchen clasped his hands at the two of them with a smile and said, Jianchen has come without warning. Please forgive me if I've disturbed you in any way. There's no need to be so polite, young Master Jianchen. Please come in. Shao Qian and Xiao Yu did not treat Jianchen as an outsider at all. They were extremely friendly. Jianchen followed Shao Qian and Xiao Yu into Three Saint Mountain. After exchanging some pleasantries with them, he expanded the senses of his soul and enveloped the entire mountain. However, he failed to find any traces of the heavenly enchantress, so he asked, Miss Shao Qian, Miss Xiao Yu, may I ask where your master is right now? Master has already been in seclusion for several years. If young Master Jianchen wants to find her, you'll probably return in disappointment, said Shao Qian. Seclusion? Jianchen frowned slightly. When he had scanned the heavenly enchantress location earlier, he had failed to find her. Has the heavenly enchantress not been in seclusion on the island and gone somewhere else? Jianchen thought. At this moment, Jianchen's eyes narrowed. He suddenly raised his head and looked into the distance. He saw a woman in a white dress standing there with a zither in her arms. She stared at Jianchen in a daze. The woman's appearance was extremely beautiful, enough to captivate the birds and beasts, enough to overshadow the moon and put the flowers to shame. She was a rare beauty in this world. She was not very old, and from her appearance, she looked no more than 20 years old. She looked very gentle and quiet, and her body naturally exuded a noble temperament that was cultivated from a young age in a large family. Miss Qin. Jianchen subconsciously cried out. His gaze toward the woman was filled with surprise and disbelief. Although this was the first time he had seen Qin's appearance, he naturally recognized her with a single glance due to his familiarity with her. She was the second young lady of the Tianqin clan. Qin slowly walked over with her zither. She stared at Jianchen without blinking at all. Her gaze was filled with mixed feelings. She said, "Young Master Jianchen, I never thought that you would actually recognize me. It really makes me feel honored." "Miss Qin, aren't you from the Tianqin clan on the Tianyuan continent? Why have you suddenly appeared here?" Jianchen asked in surprise. "I have already become the disciple of the heavenly enchantress. Master brought me here," said Qin. Her voice was gentle and filled with charm. "Miss Qin has a very high comprehension of the zither. Congratulations on becoming the disciple of the heavenly enchantress." Jianchen smiled gently. He felt happy for Qin inside as well. However, the only thing that worried him was the way Qin looked at him. Jianchen was no longer an ignorant person. How could he not see Qin's feelings for him? This made him feel troubled. Jianchen gently sighed inside. He stopped thinking about these matters and took out a piece of jade from his space ring. He passed it to Qin and said, "Miss Qin, this place is extremely far away from the Tianyuan continent, and Senior Heavenly Enchantress is often in seclusion. When you want to go home, just shatter this piece of jade. I'll come as soon as possible to take you back to the Tianyuan continent so that you can reunite with your family." "Thank you, young Master Jianchen." Qin smiled sweetly. She extended her hand and accepted the piece of jade from Jianchen. She held it like it was a treasure. "It's time for me to return to the Tianyuan continent. Miss Qin, Miss Xiaoqian, Miss Xiaoyu, let's meet again in the future." Jianchen missed his family, so he was in no mood to stay on 3 Saint Island. He immediately bid farewell to the 3 women. Qin immediately panicked when she heard that Jianchen wanted to return to the Tianyuan continent. "Young Master Jianchen, you can't return to the Tianyuan continent. Everyone on the Tianyuan continent is looking for you. They all want to steal the winged tiger." Qin could not help but glance at the white tiger on Jianchen's shoulder as she said that. Jianchen smiled. "Don't worry, they won't be able to do anything to me." Chapter 966. 3 Saint Island was extremely far from the Tianyuan continent. Even with Jianchen's speed, it took him close to 10 days to leave the sea realm. He arrived on land, but he did not stop at all. He continued to fly toward the depths of the continent. During this period of time, Jianchan would stop and ask the caravans and mercenaries that he came across along the way. However, apart from learning that he was in a small kingdom, he learned nothing else. Perhaps it was because they were too far away, or perhaps it was because they were too ignorant, but they had not even heard of the 8 great kingdoms of the continent. It was basically impossible for Jianchen to learn the location of the kingdom of Jessen from them. Jianchen traveled for another 4 hours before stopping in an extremely bustling capital of a kingdom. The Tianyuan continent was just too large. There were many kingdoms on it, so many that no one could accurately count them all. The first thing he needed to do right now was to find a map that would lead him back to the kingdom of Jessen. Jianchen expanded the senses of his soul and enveloped the entire city. He then made his way to the largest grocery store in the center of the city. Jianqin conversed with the waiter in the grocery store. In the end, he left with a map of the Qin Empire. This was the most detailed map the store had. Although the kingdom of Jessin was not on the map, it was enough for Jianqin. As long as he made it to the Qin Empire, he would be able to go to the kingdom of Jessin through a space gate in the Qin Empire. Jianqin took the map and walked out of the grocery store. As soon as he arrived on the main street, he saw a group of mercenaries walking towards him. At the front of the group were several middle-aged men riding Class 4 magical beasts. They were chatting as they walked. I heard that the Extinguishing Alliance has been wantonly recruiting people across the continent. They want to become the greatest mercenary group on the continent. I wonder if that's true, said a bare-chested, middle-aged man. A person in red armor beside him sneered disdainfully when he heard that. He mocked. They want to become the greatest mercenary group on the continent. This Extinguishing Alliance sure is ambitious. The Tianyuan continent is so large, so how can a single mercenary group reach so far? Do they really think that their Extinguishing Alliance is a mercenary city? You better believe me. The Extinguishing Alliance is far more powerful than you can imagine. It's said that they have the support of a holy emperor behind them. They're extremely powerful, and I've received reliable news that the Extinguishing Alliance seems to want the holy emperor behind them to personally set up several dozen space gates in Extinguishing City. They can lead to anywhere on the continent. The bare-chested, space gates? What's that? A few other mercenaries around the same age as the man all gathered their heads together. They asked curiously. The bare-chested man lowered his head in thought for a while before replying in a rather confused manner. I don't know what space gates are either, but I've heard from others that it's an ability that can send people to any place on the continent. Only a holy emperor can use this ability. The mercenaries on the Class 4 magical beasts all became surprised when they heard that. The man in red armor also sighed in amazement. If the Extinguishing Alliance really has such an ability and can send people to any corner of the Tianyuan continent as they please, it wouldn't be impossible for them to become the greatest mercenary group on the continent. Of course, don't forget that the Extinguishing Alliance occupies the only city constructed from tungsten alloy in the history of the Tianyuan continent. Just this city alone is enough to stand up to the 7 capital cities of the continent. Extinguishing Flame City is already known as the 8th capital city, the bare-chested man said enviously. Jianqin, who had just brushed past the mercenaries, immediately came to a halt when he heard that. A sliver of curiosity appeared in his eyes as he murmured, "Who is this Extinguishing Alliance?" They actually occupy the only city constructed from tungsten alloy on the continent. Strange, wasn't the first city constructed from tungsten alloy the mercenaries' Flame City? Why is there another one? Why haven't I heard of such a famous city before? Hold on. Extinguishing flame, extinguishing flame, extinguishing flame. Jianqin seemed to realize something as a gleam of light gradually flashed through his eyes. With a single movement, he vanished from where he was. This Extinguishing Alliance. The bare-chested man on the Class 4 magical beast continued to rattle on about the latest information he had obtained. However, just when he reached there, he felt his vision blur. A white-robed young man had suddenly appeared before him. The young man stood firmly on the back of his magical beast and stared down at him. He growled, "Tell me, what kind of mercenary group is this Extinguishing Alliance? How did they manage to occupy the first city completely constructed from tungsten alloy on the Tianyuan continent?" The man was a bad-tempered person. He had quite a background behind him, so he immediately became furious when he saw someone speak to him in such a manner while standing on his mount. He pressed down hard on the back of his mount, and his body suddenly rose up. He actually stood up like Jianqin and angrily roared, "How dare you!" However, just as he blurted out the word bold, he suddenly felt his neck tighten. He saw that the young man had already reached out his hand with lightning speed and tightly pinched his neck, making it difficult for him to breathe. Immediately, a feeling of suffocation came over him. The burly man still wanted to use his hands to resist, but just as he moved his hands, he was horrified to find that the space around his body had instantly solidified, imprisoning his entire body in place. He couldn't even move a finger. The sudden change immediately terrified the man, who had never experienced the might of a saint ruler before. The flames of fury in his heart were extinguished at that moment, replaced by fear. Now, no matter how stupid he was, he understood that the young man before him was not someone he could provoke. "Who are you? How dare you touch a member of our Viper mercenaries? Die!" The companions beside the man all returned to their senses. They immediately drew their saint weapons and stabbed at Jianchen. "Piss off!" Jianchen bellowed. Suddenly, a tremendous presence erupted from his body, forming a powerful shockwave that slammed into the middle-aged men. The middle-aged men were all Earth Saint Masters, so they were blown away by the shockwave from Jianchen's presence without being able to resist at all. They smashed into the shops on the two sides of the street and constantly vomited blood. They were all heavily injured. Jianchen glared at the man. He loosened his grip on the man's neck and growled. "Tell me, where did this extinguishing alliance come from? Where is that city made of tungsten alloy that they've taken over?" The burly man had personally witnessed how Jianchen had sent his companions flying with just a burst of his presence. He was immediately frightened out of his wits, almost fainting on the spot. This was because he knew extremely well that even Heaven's Saint Masters would not be able to do something like this. To be able to injure several Earth Saint Masters so easily and even control space to immobilize him, the person had to be one of the rare saint rulers in the legends. The man no longer dared to act tough after recovering his ability to speak, especially after guessing Jianchen's strength. He immediately knelt down and begged for mercy. "Senior, please spare me. I was blind and did not recognize your presence. Please forgive me and spare my life." Jianchen's face sank. He growled, "Answer my question." Yes. I'll answer immediately. I don't know the exact origins of this extinguishing alliance, because I've only heard about it from others. The 8th major city that they've taken over, Extinguishing City, is located in an extremely distant place. I don't know exactly how far it is, but it's rather close to the Qin Empire, the man hurriedly replied. It's rather close to the Qin Empire. Jianchen's heart shivered as he softly murmured. The ill omen he suddenly felt became more and more intense. "Then do you know about the Flame Mercenaries?" Jianchen followed up with another question. I do. Of course I do. There's basically no mercenary on the Tianyuan continent who doesn't know about the Flame Mercenaries. It's said that the 8th city on the Tianyuan continent, Annihilation City, was originally built by the Flame Mercenaries, but it was suddenly taken away by the people of the Korea Annihilating Alliance as soon as it was finished. The man answered everything he knew. Jianchen suddenly became stunned. He became rather dejected as the man's final words echoed through his head. He struggled to accept it. It was taken away. It's been taken away. The tungsten alloy city that my Flame Mercenaries built after so much effort has actually been taken away. No, this is impossible. How can this be? How can this be? At that moment, Jianchen seemed to have lost his soul. His face was filled with deep sorrow. Suddenly, Yu by Lian and the others flashed through Jianchen's head. It immediately made Jianchen's expression change. He immediately grabbed the man and yelled out, "What happened to the people of the Flame Mercenaries in the end? Tell me, what happened to the people of the Flame Mercenaries in the end?" Jianchen's voice was filled with worry. Back then, the 10 protector clans had all been searching for him. He was afraid that the people of the Flame Mercenaries would be affected or even harmed. Before he had left, he had asked Tianjin to look after the Flame Mercenaries for him. Now that Flame City had actually been taken away, and even Tianjin was unable to stop it, Jianchen was basically certain that the 10 protector clans had interfered with this matter. I don't know, I don't know. I really don't know. I only know that they were chased away. I don't know what happened afterwards, because I didn't hear anything else. The man had become dumbfounded from fright. Even his voice began to tremble. Chapter 9, 67. Jianqin continued to stand on the back of the Class 4 magical beast. The magical beast had already collapsed from fright, trembling on the ground. Its eyes were filled with fear. A powerful killing intent radiated from Jianqin uncontrollably. It surged into the sky, causing the clouds to change color. Even the sun in the sky had lost its former brilliance, as if it was unable to compete with the killing intent radiating from Jianqin. The city Jianqin resided in was a king city, as well as the imperial city of a kingdom. There was a resplendent imperial palace behind the city. A few old men who were cultivating in the palace opened their eyes at the same time. They stared into the distance in shock before emerging from the hall at the same time. They were extremely stern. These old men were all peak experts of the kingdom. They were all Heaven Saint Masters. What a tremendous presence. What powerful killing intent. It's actually making me tremble from the bottom of my heart. Heaven Saint Masters definitely can't possess such a powerful presence. The person who gives off this presence is definitely a saint ruler, an old man said with a heavy voice. A few other Heaven Saint Masters quickly walked over from afar. One of them said with a heavy voice, "A saint ruler has come to our city. It looks like someone has angered him. Let's go and take a look." The Heaven Saint Masters immediately flew toward Jianqin. At the same time, on a barren mountain dozens of miles away from the city, a small wooden hut stood quietly in an open space. An old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion sat in the wooden hut as he cultivated. The space around the old man slowly rippled at a visible rate. The old man's entire body seemed to have fused with the world. The old man was a hermit who had become a saint ruler many years ago. Suddenly, the old man's eyes snapped open. With a single movement, he left the hut and appeared on a mountain several hundred meters away. He stared into the distance, sternly, as shock filled his muddy eyes. He said with a trembling voice, "What a powerful presence! What terrifying killing intent! This is a holy emperor, a mighty holy emperor. Why has he appeared in such a remote place and radiated with such terrifying killing intent? Has someone angered him? No, I have to go back and take a look." The old man fused with the surrounding space and left as a faint blur. In the city, Jianqin clenched his fists tightly. He gritted his teeth and said, "Extinguishing alliance, how dare you steal my flame city and chase away my flame mercenaries? No matter who is behind you, I, Jianqin, will not forgive you." At this moment, the Heaven Saint Masters in the Imperial Palace all flew over. They stopped 100 meters away from Jianqin and stared at him nervously. After a moment of hesitation, one of them finally stepped forward and clasped his hands. "Senior, we are the Imperial Advisors of the Amazon Kingdom. May I ask what has angered you, Senior? If you need us, we are more than happy to serve you." The Imperial Advisors dared not offend Jianqin at all, so they spoke extremely politely. Jianqin did not pay attention to them. Instead, he looked into the distance. His eyes were bloodshot as the remaining anger and killing intent in them had yet to disperse. A figure flew over from where Jianqin was looking, arriving before Jianqin in the blink of an eye. It was the old man who had been cultivating on a mountain several dozen kilometers away. The Imperial Advisors immediately rejoiced when they saw the old man arrive. They all politely bowed to the old man and said, "We greet the Imperial Protector." The old man, who they called the Imperial Protector, completely ignored them. He studied Jianqin secretly and was secretly shocked inside. This was because he felt like he had been stabbed by 2 swords under Jianqin's gaze, causing him to ache faintly. When he faced Jianqin, he felt like he was not facing a person, but an unreachable mountain. He felt like he was as weak as an ant before him, making him feel extremely pressured. He really is a sovereign who has reached the level of the Holy Emperor. He really is powerful, thought the old man. However, he maintained a respectful expression on the surface. He bowed deeply to Genshin and said politely, "I am Yenzinen. Greetings to Senior. May I ask what has caused Senior to become so angry? If Senior has any use for me, Yenzinen is willing to do anything for Senior." The imperial protector of the Amazon kingdom saw how the imperial protector, who had reached the level of Saint Ruler, was actually so respectful to Genshin, even calling him Senior. They were all shocked, and their gazes towards Genshin underwent a drastic change. Could it be that the person before us isn't a Saint Ruler, but a sovereign who has reached the level of the Holy Emperor? At that moment, the imperial protectors, who were only Heaven's Saint Masters, all had the same thought. It immediately caused a huge commotion in their hearts. They were all shocked. Is there a space gate nearby? Genshin stared at Yenzinen with a sharp gaze and asked with a heavy voice. Hearing that, doubt flashed through Yenzinen's eyes, but he didn't dare to ask too much. He politely said, "Senior, if there's a space gate in a radius of several 100,000 kilometers, then there's probably only the ancient clan that lives in the White Phoenix Mountains, the Kugu clan." "Where is the White Phoenix Mountains?" Genshin immediately asked. "It's 500,000 kilometers to the west." Yenzinen didn't dare to hide anything and said honestly. As soon as Yenzinen finished speaking, Genshin shot off like a cannonball, flying west with lightning speed. His current location was extremely far from the Qin Empire, one of the 8 great kingdoms. If he traveled by air, it would take quite some time. After learning about what had happened in Flame City, Genshin was no longer in the mood to travel slowly. Right now, he only wanted to find a space gate to return to the kingdom of Jessin as quickly as possible. It would save him quite a lot of time. Newbies had reached the level of the Holy Emperor and could rip open a space gate, but Newbies was currently studying the Saint Tier battle skill he had obtained from the Sea Realm in the artifact space. He had reached a crucial moment, so Genshin did not want to disturb Newbies over something so small. He wanted to prevent Newbies from wasting all his efforts. There was an ancient mountain range several 100,000 kilometers away from the Yama Kingdom. Many magical beasts lived there, including many class 6 magical beasts. It was the perfect place for mercenaries to hunt magical beasts. In the depths of the mountain range was a region shrouded in poisonous mist. The mist never dispersed and was extremely powerful. Even Heaven's Saint Masters dared not venture in there. Several powerful class 6 magical beasts stood guard outside the mist. Over the countless years, many Heaven's Saint Masters had ventured into this place, but in the end they either fled with heavy injuries or died there. As time went on, the mist-shrouded region became a death zone. Within the area covered by the poisonous fog, there was a huge manor that few people knew about. The manor was covered by a powerful barrier, and there were countless houses inside. One could clearly see many plainly dressed people moving around inside. This was where the ancient Keigu clan lived in seclusion. The mountain range was called the White Phoenix Mountains. At this moment, the poisonous fog outside the Keigu clan began to violently fluctuate. A black sword chi seemed to have come from the sky. It broke through the blockade of the poisonous fog and ruthlessly bombarded the barrier that enveloped the Keigu clan. Boom! The peace of the Keigu clan was shattered. With a violent boom, the barrier personally cast down by the Holy Emperor immediately shattered. It was unable to stop the sword chi. The sudden change alarmed everyone in the Keigu family. At this moment, those experts who were in seclusion opened their eyes one after another. Their bodies emitted a huge aura as they rushed into the sky, like lightning. Everyone stared at the disappearance of the barrier with a dignified expression. "Who has descended? My Keigu clan may have failed to welcome you, but there is no need for you to break through our barrier." An old voice rang out in the surroundings. The voice was forceful and filled with vigor as it reverberated through the surroundings. Along with the voice, a majestic aura suddenly appeared, enveloping the surrounding area. An old man with wrinkles all over his face slowly floated up into the air. He was one of the two great ancestors of the Ku-gu family, Conan. At the same time, another old man slowly rose into the air in another direction of the Keigu clan as he radiated with a tremendous presence. He was the second ancestor of the Keigu clan Kubei. The two saint kings, Conan and Kubei, were furious as they raised their heads to look at the sky. The mist churned in the sky as a white-robed young man slowly descended with a sword in his hand. The young man's face was cold as killing intent flickered in his eyes. Conan and Kubei both stared at the sword in Jianshin's hand. With their knowledge, they obviously recognized the Emperor armament with a single glance. Their eyes suddenly narrowed as shock filled their faces. "Sir, may I ask how my Keigu clan has offended you?" Kubei asked with a heavy voice as his eyes were filled with sternness. "Do you have a space gate here? Let me borrow it!" Jianshin descended from the sky as he coldly stared at the two Holy Emperor experts. "Humph! Sir, you're the mighty sovereign of the Holy Emperor. You can rip through space to create a space gate, yet you're actually borrowing our space gate? Are you toying with us?" Conan was furious. Jianshin was emotionless. He did not explain too much as he coldly said, "I'll be borrowing your space gate, and I'll leave immediately." Chapter 968. The two Holy Emperors' faces sank. In their eyes, Jianshin clearly possessed the strength of a Holy Emperor, enough to rip open a space gate, yet he insisted on using their clan's space gate. This was a blatant provocation. The Ku-gu clan was a mighty ancient clan with two Holy Emperor experts. How could they allow others to insult them like this? Conan and Kubei immediately flew into a rage and bellowed, "Sir, don't look down on us. Since you've insulted our Ku-gu clan like this, let's see what you're capable of. Let's see just how capable you are to look down on our Ku-gu clan." Jianshin immediately frowned when he heard that. He had only come to the Ku-gu clan to borrow their space gate, but he had never thought that such a simple matter would lead to a misunderstanding from the Ku-gu clan. Before Jianshin could explain himself, the two Holy Emperor experts had already leapt into the air. They charged toward Jianshin as powerful pulses of energy radiated from them. A huge sword as wide as a palm appeared in their hands as they swung it toward Jianshin with terrifying pressure. The space on the Tianyuan continent was not as tough as the Sea Realm. As the two Holy Emperor experts swung their swords, the space immediately shattered, turning into darkness. However, this did not affect Conan and Kubei at all. Their saint weapons glowed brightly as they shot toward Jianshin with lightning-like speed. Kubei and Conan were at the second heavenly layer and the third heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. Although they were also supreme experts on the Tianyuan continent, they were nothing in Jianshin's eyes. With the toughness of the third layer of the chaotic body, he could block an attack from a Holy Emperor at the third heavenly layer with just his body and emerge unscathed. Jianshin's face remained as cold as before. It did not change at all. With a sudden jerk of his arm, the Emperor armament in his hand stabbed out as a black streak of light. Ding! With two clear sounds, the Emperor armament collided with Kubei and Conan's saint weapons. A violent storm of energy erupted, causing the sky to constantly tremble. Conan and Kubei immediately felt an irresistible force the moment they collided with the Emperor armament. Not only did it cause their arms to become numb, but a sliver of the remaining force also entered their bodies through their arms, causing their organs to violently shake and their blood to churn. Ku-gu and Conan's bodies flew backwards uncontrollably. They only stabilized after retreating a distance of 10 kilometers. Immediately, their hearts were filled with shock. The two of them understood that if Jianshin had used just a little more power, the two of them definitely would have been heavily injured. And from how relaxed Conan was, it was clear that he had not used his full strength in the previous attack. Sir, who are you? How has my Kugu clan offended you? Why do you want to make things difficult for my Kugu clan? Ku Nan asked with a heavy voice. He was extremely stern. I only want to use the space gate. I don't want to make things difficult for your Kugu clan, Jianchen said with a heavy voice. Humph, you are a Saint Emperor Supreme. Your strength is far greater than ours. You can tear open space and form a space gate, yet you insist on going through so much trouble to borrow my Kugu clan's space gate. Are you not toying with my Kugu clan? Kubei said with a gloomy expression. Jianchen could not be bothered to explain to them. He said again, I'll leave immediately if I use the space gate. Are you going to lend it to me or not? If you're not going to lend it to me, I'll just have to use it myself. Jianchen's voice was cold, but it was filled with a great sense of arrogance. He did not take the Kugu clan that possessed two holy emperor experts seriously at all. The current Jianchen was completely different from the Jianchen of a few years ago. The Jianchen of a few years ago was absolutely powerless against a peak ancient family. But now he already possessed the absolute strength to look down on the ancient aristocratic families and even threaten them. This was a world where strength was respected. There was no reason to speak of, no fairness to speak of, no right or wrong to speak of. The only thing that could speak was strength. Strength that was strong enough to make all opponents wary or even fearful of a powerful strength. The two holy emperors of the Kugu clan's expressions changed again and again. Faced with Jianchen's threatening words, the two of them were powerless to resist. This was because the other party was powerful enough to look down on the two of them and overturn the Kugu clan. All right, since Sir wants to use our space gate, please come with us. The two holy emperors of the Kugu clan finally admitted defeat. Whether the other party had come to provoke them or really wanted to use their space gate, the two of them had no choice but to comply with Jianchen's request and bring him to the location of the space gate. Under the gazes of countless clansmen of the Kugu clan, Jianchen stood behind Kubei and Ku Nan and swaggered towards the location of the space gate. Soon after, Kugu and Ku Nan personally opened the space gate. Seeing that Jianchen really did intend to use their space gate and was not looking for trouble with them, Kanan and Kubei could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. Shortly after, Kubei expressionlessly asked, Where does Sir want us to set the space gate? The Qin Empire, one of the 8 great powers, Jianchen said. The space gate was quickly set to the Qin Empire. Afterwards, Jianchen directly stepped into the space gate under the gazes of the 2 holy emperors, Kanan and Kubei, and left. As soon as Jianchen left, Kanan and Kubei quickly closed the space gate and breathed a sigh of relief in their hearts. They had finally sent away this troublesome opponent. Jianchen directly arrived at the Qin Empire through the space gate. After determining the location, he immediately flew towards the Qin Empire's imperial palace and disappeared in the blink of an eye. His speed was extremely fast. The imperial palace of the Qin Empire was peaceful. Squads of armored elite soldiers patrolled the imperial palace in an orderly manner. In the quiet imperial palace, there was a majestic and inviolable atmosphere. Majestic. At this moment, a vast and majestic presence appeared in the distance. The presence was so great that it seemed to be able to shake the heavens and earth, causing the clouds in the surroundings to change color. The clouds in the sky surged as if there was a serpent dragon surging within. The presence grew stronger and stronger as it constantly approached the imperial palace of the Qin Empire. The imperial protector cultivating in the 4 Qin heavenly halls of the Qin Empire opened their eyes at the same time. Shock flashed through their eyes. Without any hesitation, they immediately left the heavenly hall and hovered high in the air. They sternly stared in the direction of the presence. At the same time, all the Heaven Saint Masters in the imperial palace and the experts of the same level in the imperial palace all sensed the tremendous presence that caused them to tremble from the depths of their souls. All of them were shocked. They stopped what they were doing and raised their heads to look at the sky in the direction of the presence. It's a saint ruler. A saint ruler has come to the imperial Qin city. Looking at his presence, he can be considered as one of the most powerful saint rulers in the world. I think he's at the 5th heavenly layer of saint ruler at the very least. Only an expert like that can make me tremble. This saint ruler has come with ill intentions. I think he's probably here to cause trouble for the Qin Empire. What's there to be afraid of? The Qin Empire has the 4 imperial protector. They have the advantage in numbers. If that person dares to provoke the Qin Empire, he'll definitely die in the end. All the Heaven Saint Masters in the imperial Qin city discussed. Because they were far too weak, they all believed that the person who gave off the presents was a saint ruler. In their eyes, only saint rulers would occasionally appear on the Tianyuan continent. They did not even dare to think about the people who had reached the level of the Holy Emperor. This was because the Holy Emperor was a figure that only existed in legends to the Heaven Saint Masters. He had not appeared for thousands of years. The 4 imperial protector of the Qin Empire hovered in the air. Qin Yunlong said with a heavy voice, "What a tremendous presence! The person who can give off this presence is at the level of the Holy Emperor at the very least. Just who is he? Why has he come to our Qin Empire? In all these years, our Qin Empire has never offended such an expert." One of the imperial protector beside Qin Yunlong said with a heavy voice. He was extremely stern. The other 2 imperial protector were also stern. They were filled with anxiety. Under the nervous gazes of the 4 imperial protector of the Qin Empire, a figure shot over with lightning speed. Very soon, he stopped before the 4 imperial protector of the Qin Empire. He was Jianqin, who had come to the Qin Empire through the space gate of the Kugu clan. The 4 imperial protector of the Qin Empire had already clasped their hands, but just as they were about to bow, they suddenly saw Jianqin's appearance. They immediately became stunned before disbelief filled their faces. Their mouths hung wide open as they were extremely shocked. "Jianqin, Jianqin!" Qin Yunlong cried out as he stared at Jianqin in disbelief. His heart churned. He had never thought that the person who gave off such a powerful presence would be Jianqin, who had disappeared for several years. "Jianqin, Imperial Protector. How can it be you? Jianqin, have you already reached the level of a holy emperor in just a few years? Jianqin, are you a holy ruler or a holy emperor right now?" The other 3 Imperial Protector all cried out. Everyone looked at Jianqin in disbelief. The 4 of them could obviously feel the tremendous presence radiating from Jianqin. Moreover, they actually felt an invisible pressure when facing Jianqin. It also made them feel like they could not defeat him. Obviously, only a supreme expert who had reached the level of a holy emperor could make them feel this way. However, the 4 of them did not dare to believe that Jianqin had broken through holy ruler so quickly and reached the level of a holy emperor. Chapter 969. For Imperial Protectors, I have an urgent matter that requires the use of the spatial gate. Let's catch up later. We can talk later, Jianqin said emotionlessly. Although returning home was something to be happy about, Jianqin was unable to feel happy about what had happened to the flame mercenaries. Qin Yunlong sucked in a deep breath and slowly calmed himself down. At that moment, his gaze towards Jianqin had completely changed. He said, "Jianqin, is it because of the flame mercenaries?" Jianqin nodded. He said, "What happened to the flame mercenaries?" "Everything was fine. So why were they chased away and robbed a flame city?" "Who is the mastermind behind the Extinguishing Alliance?" "It's one of the 8 kings of the Felicity Empire, the Equal King," said Qin Yunlong. "The Equal King? So it's him." The killing intent in Jianqin's eyes skyrocketed. His gaze became extremely terrifying. "Then, what's the current situation of the flame mercenaries?" Jianqin asked immediately. Qin Yunlong sighed gently. He said, "The flame mercenaries have basically disbanded. Some of them have gone their separate ways. Some have joined the Extinguishing Alliance, and some have gone to the kingdom of Jessen. Your friends are all fine. They've all been taken away by a holy emperor from one of the protector clans. Jianqin could not help but let out a sigh of relief when he heard that Yu and the others were fine. However, his killing intent did not weaken at all. He gritted his teeth and said, I want to use the space gate to go to Flame City. I'd like to see just how capable the Extinguishing Alliance is. How dare they steal Flame City that belongs to me, Jianqin. Afterward, Jianqin went to the space gate under the personal escort of the 4 Imperial Protector from the Qin Empire. He left through the space gate and headed to Flame City. The 4 Imperial Protector from the Qin Empire stood there in fright after Jianqin's departure. The light in their eyes flickered as they became uncertain. A group of Heaven Saint Masters gathered beside the 4 of them. Strange. Has Jianqin reached the level of a holy emperor? His presence has definitely reached the level of a holy emperor. So why did he come to our Qin Empire and use a space gate to leave? An Imperial Protector asked in doubt. The other 3 Imperial Protector all nodded with that question. They all found it extremely strange. The Imperial Protectors behind the 4 of them were all shocked when they heard that. Shock filled their faces. At that moment, all of them doubted their ears. The Imperial Protector from Jianqin, who had only broken through to Saint Ruler a few years ago, had actually become a holy emperor. All of them found it hard to believe. Jianqin, who had already left through the space gate, had no idea just how shocked he had been to the people of the Qin Empire. He had already arrived 10 kilometers away from Flame City. From afar, Jianqin could see the majestic, dark walls of the city. It seemed like a prostrating serpent dragon, radiating with an invisible pressure that deeply shocked his soul. The city gate of Extinguishing Flame City was wide open. A large number of people dressed as mercenaries were walking in and out of the city gate. They were either walking on foot or riding on magical beasts, leaving a trail of footprints on the ground. Flame City was bustling right now. Not only were there several million people living in the city, but there were also many shops. The streets were bustling with activity, filled with life. Jianqin slowly looked up and saw a plaque with the words Flame City on it. Killing intent immediately began to boil within him, surging into the sky uncontrollably. The city before him, that was completely constructed from tungsten alloy, originally belonged to the Flame Mercenaries. The people living in the city and the flags fluttering on the walls all belonged to the Flame Mercenaries, but now everything had changed. It had all become someone else's. When he thought about how the city that the Flame Mercenaries had painstakingly constructed after expending so much wealth and effort, Jianqin could not contain his anger. Arg! Jianqin roared at the sky. His voice was like thunder, exploding through the surroundings. The terrifying sound waves possessed enough power to pierce through metal and rock. Not only did they tear the clouds to pieces, but they also caused the entire city to tremble gently, causing a thick layer of dust to fall. On the city walls of Extinguishing Flame City, the members of the Extinguishing Flame Alliance, who were guarding the city, all covered their ears with their hands. They fell to the ground and rolled around in pain. Everyone's eardrums were hurt by the roar, and blood flowed out of their ears. It was not just them. Countless people in the city were affected as well. The several million people's eardrums had ruptured from Jianqin's roar, causing them to suffer from splitting headaches. Some of them had even fainted. In the blink of an eye, the city was in chaos. People were lying on the ground all over the streets. A single roar from Jianqin was enough to incapacitate several million people from the Flame Mercenaries. Countless people were injured. This was the might of the Holy Emperor. Roar! At the same time, a deafening tiger's roar rang out. It was filled with a vast sense of majesty, as if a supreme king had descended and looked down on the world. The white tiger on Jianqin's shoulder suddenly stood up. It mimicked Jianqin and roared at the sky, producing a sound that was completely disproportionate to its tiny body. Although it was nowhere near as majestic as Jianqin, Its roar possessed a deterrence that Jianqin did not possess. It possessed a supreme sense of majesty that could not be violated. Countless magical beasts in the city all cried out sorrowfully. They all lay on the ground and trembled. Deep fear filled their eyes. The weaker mercenaries who had not fainted from Jianqin's roar all tilted their heads and fainted from the roar. Over 20 powerful presences appeared in the imperial palace at the center of the city. The 20 or so saint rulers who were cultivating in the palace were all alarmed. They all flew out of the palace. The Flame Mercenaries Alliance was composed of over a dozen peak mercenary groups. The 20 or so saint rulers were the old captains of the mercenaries. The saint rulers arrived at the entrance of the city with lightning-like speed. They all became extremely stern when they saw Jianqin hovering in the air. With their strength, they could obviously sense Jianqin's strength. The tremendous presence from Jianqin made them shiver inside. They all understood that the person before them was definitely an expert on par with the Holy Emperor. They had heard of Jianqin before, but they had never seen Jianqin before. As a result, they failed to recognize Jianqin immediately. May I ask for Senior's name? Why have you become enemies with our Flame Mercenaries Alliance? We don't seem to have offended Senior. A saint ruler from the Flame Mercenaries Alliance carefully asked. Jianqin radiated with killing intent as he coldly stared at the saint rulers. He called out, "You've stolen my city and chased away my flame mercenaries. Who do you think I am?" The saint rulers of the Flame Extinguishing Alliance all became stunned when they heard that. One of them returned to his senses and immediately cried out, "Are you the captain of the Flame Mercenaries, Jianqin?" "What? He's the Jianqin that the Protector clans have been searching for all these years? If that's the case, doesn't that mean the white tiger on his shoulder is the winged tiger?" "Impossible. This is definitely impossible." It said that Jianqin is only a saint ruler and that he's only broken through recently. How did he become a holy emperor so quickly? No matter how great Jianqin's talent is, it's impossible for him to cultivate so quickly. He's definitely not Jianqin. The saint rulers all cried out. They all looked at Jianqin in disbelief, but most of them looked at the white tiger on Jianqin's shoulder. Greed and desire filled their eyes. Jianqin's face was sunken. He glanced past the saint rulers with a sharp gaze, but he did not find Bianwang. As a result, he called out, "The captain of the Flame Mercenaries, Jianqin, has come. Where is Bianwang? Come out and die." Jianqin's loud voice reverberated through the surroundings, causing the surrounding space to tremble. It reached 100 kilometers away. "What? The captain of the Flame Mercenaries, Jianqin, has returned? It's Captain Jianqin. Captain Jianqin has returned." Some of the mercenaries who had not fainted in the city all cried out. Their faces all became extremely mixed. This was because they used to belong to the Flame Mercenaries. However, after the Flame Mercenaries collapsed, they joined the Extinguishing Alliance and became a part of it. The saint rulers of the Extinguished Alliance finally confirmed Jianqin's identity when they heard Jianqin's report. Their faces all drastically changed. If Jianqin was only a saint ruler, they obviously would not fear him. But Jianqin radiated with the presence of the Holy Emperor, which made them all shiver in fear. Humph! The captain of the Flame Mercenaries, Jianqin, isn't even 50 years old yet. It's already pretty good for him to become a saint ruler at his age. I refuse to believe that he's really reached the level of the Holy Emperor. His presence is probably fake as well. It's not his true strength, a saint ruler from the Extinguished Alliance doubted. Yeah, it's impossible for such a young Holy Emperor to appear on the Tianyuan continent. His presence must be fake. His true strength might not be greater than ours. Let's all go together and tear through his disguise. Don't be fooled by him. Another saint ruler called out. Another saint ruler called out. With that, he drew his saint weapon and charged at Jianqin with his 3 companions. Jianqin's gaze was extremely cold. The emperor armament appeared in his hand, and he stabbed it toward the 4 saint rulers. The 4 saint rulers cried out at the same time and struck out as hard as they could. Their saint weapons tore through space and shot toward Jianqin with powerful ripples of energy. Jianqin's emperor armament collided with their saint weapons. How could an attack as powerful as the Holy Emperor's 7th heavenly layer be withstood by mere saint rulers? The saint weapons of the 4 saint rulers immediately shattered, causing them to vomit blood. Their faces paled in a single moment. The emperor armament did not slow down at all. It cleaved through their heads like a bolt of lightning, cleaving their heads in half and wiping out their souls. Blood splattered in the air like a blooming flower. For saint rulers had actually been slain so easily, they could not put up any resistance at all. The expressions of all the saint rulers from the Extinguished Alliance drastically changed when they personally witnessed this. They retreated again and again in the air as their gazes toward Jianqin underwent a drastic change. Chapter 970. The members of the Extinguishing Alliance all paled at the sight of this, for powerful saint rulers had actually been slain so easily. It was an extremely heavy blow to all of them, filling them with deep fear. At that moment, all the members of the Extinguishing Alliance felt like they were enveloped by the shadow of death. Although they still had 23 saint rulers on their side, they did not feel safe at all. Jianqin looked at the remaining 23 saint rulers after killing the 4 saint rulers. He slowly raised the emperor armament in his hand, and it shone with a black light. The destructive energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings like a layer of black flames of death. It made the 23 saint rulers feel fear from the bottom of their hearts. This was a power that made them tremble. It was a great power that they could not resist. The 23 saint rulers were all frightened. They constantly retreated as they hovered in the air. Their gazes toward Jianqin were filled with intense fear. Jianqin, it has nothing to do with us. It really has nothing to do with us. We attacked Flame City completely because we were bewitched by the parallel to the king. The main culprit is the parallel to the king. It was all because of him, a saint ruler said with a trembling voice. None of them dared to even think about fleeing against a holy emperor because holy emperors could rip open space gates. They could not flee at all. Where is the king? Jianqin's voice was extremely cold. It was filled with killing intent. In the imperial capital of the Felicity Empire, a saint ruler hurriedly replied. A saint ruler said in a hurry. He secretly prayed that Jianqin would hurry to the Felicity Empire to seek revenge from the Bijuan king and not stay here any longer. That way, they would have enough time to escape with their people and avoid a disaster. The king, no matter where you hide, Jianqin, will never let you go. However, before I go to the Felicity Empire, I want to deal with the experts of your Extinguishing Alliance first, Jianqin said with a deep voice. He slowly pointed the emperor armament at the saint rulers of the Extinguishing Alliance. Powerful killing intent radiated from him without any concealment, causing the 23 saint rulers to all pale in fright. Jianqin, it really has nothing to do with us. It was all because of the king. He's the mastermind. We're only his chess pieces, the saint rulers of the Extinguishing Alliance explained. The saint rulers from the Extinguishing Alliance constantly explained. After personally witnessing Jianqin kill the 4 experts, they no longer dared to oppose Jianqin even though they had the numerical advantage. The king and you will all die, including the Extinguishing Alliance. I, Jianqin, will not let a single one of you go, Jianqin coldly said. He immediately charged toward the 23 saint rulers. At this moment, the space before Jianqin began to violently distort. A space gate suddenly appeared, and before he had even appeared, a vast presence radiated from it. Jianqin came to a halt. He hovered in the air as he stared at the space gate. A cold light flickered through his eyes. The 23 saint rulers all let out a sigh of relief. In their eyes, Jianqin possessed the winged tiger and was the target of the protector clans. Now that the Holy Emperor had appeared, he would definitely act against Jianqin and steal the winged tiger to keep Jianqin busy. Under the gazes of Jianqin and the saint rulers of the Extinguishing Alliance, a white-robed, pale-faced, middle-aged man walked out of the space gate. It's Senior by Yifei. Fantastic! Senior by Yifei has actually come. The 23 saint rulers of the Extinguishing Alliance immediately cried out in joy when they saw the middle-aged man. All of their faces were filled with excitement. Jianqin's eyes suddenly narrowed as killing intent exploded in his eyes. He sneered, "By Yifei, you sure have come at the perfect time. Let's settle our grievances from back then today." By Yifei coldly stared at Jianqin. His eyes were filled with disdain as he sneered. "Jianqin, I predicted that you would return one day, so I left behind a soul imprint here. I never thought that my prediction would come true. You really have returned. Today it's time for you to." By Yifei's eyes suddenly narrowed as his expression drastically changed. He pointed at Jianqin and cried out, H! How is this possible? How can your presence be so powerful? How did you break through Saint Ruler in just a few short years and reach the Holy Emperor's domain?" By Yifei's face was filled with disbelief as his heart churned. He could not remain calm at all. In the next moment, By Yifei's gaze suddenly landed on the sword in Jianqin's hand. His face changed once again, becoming filled with shock. He could not help but cry out, That's an Emperor armament. You've actually obtained an Emperor armament." Jianqin could not help but sneer when he saw how shocked By Yifei was. He said, "By Yifei, it's a pity that I didn't kill you back then, but today is the day you die. No one can save you." By Yifei quickly suppressed his shock when he heard Jianqin's arrogant words. A gleam of light flickered through his eyes, and he calmed down very soon. He heavily said, "Jianqin, the presence of the Holy Emperor on you probably comes from the might of the Emperor armament. You're still a saint ruler, so do you really think you can defeat me with just an Emperor armament? You're dreaming. The Holy Emperor's strength is far beyond what you can imagine. I'll show you the true strength of the Holy Emperor right now. Once I kill you, the Emperor armament in your hand will be mine. I'll give the winged tiger to the Yuan sect in exchange for some medicine that can heal the soul." By Yifei's eyes burned with desire. His gaze toward the Emperor armament was filled with greed. He still did not know what Jianqin's true strength was, so he did not take Jianqin seriously. Instead, he treated the Emperor armament as already his. Jianqin's lips curled in disdain. He looked at By Yifei in disdain and sneered, "You still don't have the ability to take my Emperor armament." "We'll know once we try," By Yifei said confidently. He did not believe that Jianqin could become a holy emperor in just a few short years. By Yifei attributed all of Jianqin's powerful presence to the Emperor armament. Tremendous saint force wildly surged out of By Yifei's body. This was the power of the Holy Emperor. It was extremely powerful, causing the surrounding space to violently tremble. At the same time, the invisible world force in the surroundings rapidly gathered, constantly revolving around By Yifei. "Jianqin, I'll show you my power," By Yifei sneered. By Yifei's face twisted viciously as he suddenly bellowed out. The saint force around him fused with the world force in a single moment before turning into a huge finger. It shot toward Jianqin with lightning-like speed. The finger was 10 meters long and half a meter wide. It tore through the air with a devastating force, ripping through space. The disdain on Jianqin's face grew thicker and thicker. He looked at the incoming finger indifferently and suddenly swung the Emperor armament in his hand, producing a meter-long black sword chi. The black sword chi radiated with a devastating presence as it shot toward By Yifei's huge finger with an unstoppable force. Wherever the sword chi passed, a huge crack would appear in the surrounding space, reducing it to darkness. Boom! With a deafening boom, Jianqin's sword chi collided with By Yifei's huge finger in the air. Immediately, a violent ripple of energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings, causing the surrounding space to violently tremble. The ground beneath their feet quaked and collapsed. Bai Ife became rather stern. He said with a deep voice, "I never thought that the Emperor armament would actually be so powerful. It can actually display such power in the hands of a saint ruler. If this Emperor armament ends up in my hands, my strength will definitely reach an unimaginable level." The greed in Bai Ife's eyes became heavier and heavier as he reached the end. At this moment, a black streak of light suddenly appeared. Jianshan's sword qi did not disperse after colliding with Bai Ife's finger. Instead, it shot out from the devastating ripple of energy in the air and continued toward Bai Ife without slowing down at all. Bai Ife's eyes suddenly narrowed as he cried out, "Oh no!" Afterward, surging energy gathered before him, condensing into a 3-meter-wide shield in a single moment to block the black sword qi. The black sword qi had completely locked onto Bai Ife's presence. All Bai Ife could do was forcefully endure the attack. Boom! The black sword qi collided with Bai Ife's shield, immediately erupting with a great boom. The sword qi was far more powerful than Bai Ife had imagined. The shield condensed from Bai Ife's Saint Force and World Force was actually unable to block it, loudly shattering. After being blocked twice, Jianshan's sword qi finally lost all its power after shattering Bai Ife's shield, dispersing in the air. Even so, Bai Ife was still sent flying by the powerful impact. While he was in the air, blood gushed out of his mouth uncontrollably, turning into streaks of blood swords that rained down from the sky. Bai Ife finally stabilized himself after flying several dozen kilometers. He immediately stared at Jianshan in shock as disbelief filled his eyes. He said with difficulty, "How is this possible? How have you become so powerful? Have you really succeeded in reaching the level of the Holy Emperor?" Bai Ife was still unable to accept this at this moment. In just a few short years, Jianshan's strength had increased to a level where he could heavily injure Bai Ife. This was just far too shocking. Jianshan radiated with a heavy killing intent as he coldly called out, "Bai Ife, I'll take your dog life today." With that, Jianshan charged toward Bai Ife with the Emperor armament in hand. Chapter 971. Jianshan scoffed at Bai Ife's threat. He sneered, "Bai Ife, even if the 10 protector clans all come today, they won't be able to save your life. Die." Jianshan charged toward Bai Ife even faster. In the blink of an eye, he crossed several dozen kilometers and arrived before Bai Ife. The Emperor armament stabbed toward Bai Ife as a black streak of light. Bai Ife was already heavily injured, so he could not use as much of his strength as before. His heart immediately sank when he sensed the might of Jianshan's attack, but he did not slow down. A huge sword immediately appeared in his hand, blocking in front of him. Jianshan's Emperor armament struck Bai Ife's huge sword. With the sound of metal clashing, the terrifying force knocked Bai Ife away with his sword once more. He immediately vomited a few more mouthfuls of blood as his face became even paler, devoid of any color. Although Bai Ife was also a holy emperor, Jianshan could use attacks at the 7th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor with the help of the Emperor armament. Bai Ife was not Jianshan's opponent with his current strength. God damn it! How has Jianshan's strength increased to such a terrifying level in such a short amount of time? I can't even put up a fight before him. Bai Ife was shocked inside. His gaze toward Jianshan was filled with fear. Jianshan gripped the Emperor armament tightly in his right hand as cold killing intent flickered in his eyes. With a slight movement, he turned into a blur and continued toward Bai Ife. Bai Ife's expression changed again and again. After clashing with Jianshan twice, Jianshan's strength had already filled him with fear. Bai Ife felt like he could not defeat Jianshan. Seeing how Jianshan had actually chased after him again, he no longer had any interest in fighting. He planned on directly ripping through space to flee. At this moment, the space several kilometers away began to tremble. A space gate rapidly formed and a tremendous presence immediately radiated from it. The appearance of the spatial gate made by Yifei rejoice. He gave up on running and called out, "Ling Yuanzi, Genshin has returned. Furthermore, the winged tiger is on his shoulder. If you don't come over, he'll escape. The one who should be running away is you, not me. A mere Ling Yuanzi can't scare me away." Genshin's cold voice rang out. He ignored the space gate and locked onto Bai Yifei. When he approached Bai Yifei, he stabbed out with his emperor armament without any hesitation. This sword seemed to pierce through the void, cutting through space-time. It completely broke through the obstruction of space and arrived before Bai Yifei in an instant. Bai Yifei's pupils shrunk to the size of a needle. In his eyes he could clearly see a divine sword emitting a black light that was constantly growing larger. The shadow of death was like a dark cloud hanging over Bai Yifei's head. Madness filled Bai Yifei's eyes. He swung his saint weapon as hard as he could to resist. But after being heavily injured twice in a row, his strength rapidly weakened. As soon as his saint weapon collided with the emperor armament, it was knocked away by a powerful force. However, the emperor armament did not slow down at all, arriving before Bai Yifei's forehead. At this moment, a white-robed, sagely old man walked out of the space gate in the distance. He was one of the great elders of the Yuan sect, Ling Yuanzi. As soon as Ling Yuanzi emerged from the space gate, he saw Bai Yifei in imminent danger. His face immediately changed as he cried out, "Stop!" However, Genshin ignored him. The emperor armament stabbed into Bai Yifei's forehead mercilessly. Spurt! Bai Yifei's entire head was pierced by the emperor armament. Even the powerful soul of the holy emperor seemed so fragile before the might of the emperor armament. It could not even withstand a single strike, directly wiping out his soul. Bai Yifei's gaze suddenly became dull. The light in his eyes faded rapidly. He could no longer maintain the ability to float in the air. His entire body fell straight down from the sky, just like that. Bai Yifei! Ling Yuanzi's eyes almost popped out of their sockets when he witnessed this scene. He let out a sorrowful cry and immediately charged towards Bai Yifei's falling body, wanting to catch it. A cold light flickered through Genshin's eyes. With a jolt of his sword, he sent a strand of sword qi toward Ling Yuanzi. Although the attack was not Genshin's full strength, it still possessed the might of the sixth heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. Ling Yuanzi bellowed out, and his saint weapon immediately appeared. He also sent out a blade qi. The sword qi and blade qi collided in the air, erupting with a great boom. Ling Yuanzi's blade qi was immediately dispersing into surging energy of the world. Genshin's sword qi weakened slightly as well, but it still shot toward Ling Yuanzi with lightning-like speed. Ling Yuanzi's eyes narrowed as he became rather stern. The curved blade in his hand began to shine brightly. With a jolt of his arm, the curved blade immediately split into three, shooting out 3 strands of blade qi at the same time. They began to rapidly spin in a triangular formation to receive the incoming black sword qi. Boom! With a great boom, Ling Yuanzi struck out twice and finally dispersed Genshin's sword qi. With the obstruction, Ling Yuanzi no longer cared about Bai Yifei anymore. He immediately hovered in the air as he glared at Genshin. He was extremely stern. "It's an emperor armament." "Genshin, I never thought you'd actually obtain an emperor armament from a trip to the Sea Realm." Ling Yuanzi recognized the emperor armament with a single glance. His face immediately became ugly. As one of the great elders of the Protector clan, Ling Yuanzi was extremely knowledgeable. This was not the first time he had seen an emperor armament, so he obviously understood its power extremely well. "Ling Yuanzi, I almost died to your hands when you hunted me down in the past. Today I'll take my revenge. I'll use the emperor armament in my hand to kill you. Bai Yifei will be your fate, Jianchen coldly said. Ling Yuanzi quickly glanced past the white tiger on Jianchen's shoulder and said, Jianchen, do you think you can contend against our protector clan with just an emperor armament? You're far too naive. You are indeed stronger than me right now. But not only will you fail to kill me today, you'll even obediently deliver the winged tiger to our Yuan sect. As he said that, a piece of jade silently appeared in Ling Yuanzi's hand. He immediately crushed it to pieces, having already notified the other great elders of the Yuan sect. Ling Yuanzi's actions were immediately noticed by Jianchen. A cold light immediately flashed through his eyes as he yelled out, Ling Yuanzi, since you've notified reinforcements, I'll kill you before they arrive. Jianchan flew up with the Emperor armament in hand, rapidly approaching Ling Yuanzi. The Emperor armament shone with a black light as a destructive presence wreaked havoc in the surroundings. Tremendous pulses of energy shook up the surroundings, causing space to distort and space to become a mess. Everything became a blur. This time, Jianchen had used his full strength. He did not hold back at all. He completely unleashed his battle prowess at the 7th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. He wanted to end the battle quickly, slaying Ling Yuanzi before his reinforcements arrived. Ling Yuanzi's expression finally changed when he sensed the tremendous presence from Jianchen. If Jianchen made him feel pressured before, then Jianchen made him shiver. This is impossible. How has his strength become so terrifying in just a few short years? Even with the assistance of the Emperor armament, it's impossible for him to become so powerful. Just how does he cultivate? Ling Yuanzi was astounded as his face became rather pale. Jianchen's hair danced wildly as his clothes fluttered. The entire region of space seemed to have become a domain of darkness. This was the domain of chaotic force. Jianchen used the illusory flash, instantly crossing several kilometers and appearing before Ling Yuanzi. Wielding his sword with one hand, he fused with the sword and stabbed at Ling Yuanzi with lightning-like speed. The strike was nothing special, but Ling Yuanzi felt like he could not dodge it. It was as if he could not dodge it no matter how he tried. The only way to deal with it was to take it head-on. Ling Yuanzi's eyes exploded as an extremely powerful energy surged out from his body, condensing into a set of majestic armor in a single moment. At the same time, he pointed his curved blade at the sky, immediately causing the clouds to change. A powerful pressure appeared in the surroundings, firmly locking onto Jianchen. Wind cloud blade formation. Ling Yuanzi bellowed out. Suddenly, the curved blade in his hand completely vanished into thin air, as if it had fused with the surroundings. The wind and clouds in the sky seemed to be affected by some sort of energy. They began to fuse together, condensing into curved blades that gathered before Ling Yuanzi. In the blink of an eye, a dense cluster of curved blades had gathered before Ling Yuanzi. Every single blade was the same size, illusory yet real. They were completely composed of wind and clouds, pulsing with powerful energy. Go! Ling Yuanzi extended his hand and pointed at Jianchen. Immediately, all the curved blades gathered around him flew towards Jianchen, forming a prison that trapped Jianchen within. The prison continued to spin, cutting into Jianchen's body like a meat grinder. At the same time, the winds and clouds above Ling Yuanzi's head stirred. An even larger wind cloud blade had already condensed. The blade was 1,000 meters long and several dozen meters wide. It pierced the sky, radiating with great might, causing the sky to tremble. Jianchen, prepare to die. Ling Yuanzi sneered. With a thought, the huge wind cloud blade hovering above his head immediately descended, slashing towards Jianchen, who was trapped within the wind cloud blade formation. As the gigantic wind cloud blade descended, the space below was shattered, turning into darkness and nothingness. The huge wind cloud blade descended extremely quickly, arriving above Jianchen in the blink of an eye. At this moment, Ling Yuanzi had already revealed a smile of victory. He seemed to be able to see Jianqin die here. At this moment, Jianqin's cold voice rang out. Ling Yuanzi, this battle skill of yours really is powerful. It's a pity that it's only a lesser Saint tier battle skill and not a true Saint tier battle skill. With that, a destructive presence radiated from the wind cloud blade formation. With a flash of black light, the wind cloud blade formation was instantly destroyed, turning into wild winds and clouds that permeated the surroundings. Jianqin appeared in the air unscathed. He was calm and composed as he indifferently glanced at the huge wind cloud blade. Pointing his emperor armament at the sky, the Holy Emperor completely erupted with his battle prowess at the 7th heavenly layer. A huge black sword Qi broke free from the restraints of the Emperor armament, charging into the sky like a roaring dragon. Boom! The two supreme powers collided in the air, erupting with a deafening boom. The violent shock waves seemed like they were going to destroy the world, obliterating space and collapsing mountains. The entire world shook violently. The huge wind cloud blade was destroyed and gradually dispersed in the air. Ling Yuanzi's joy vanished as well, replaced by a sunken expression. Chapter 972. Jianqin, I never thought that you would become so powerful in just a few short years, Ling Yuanzi said with a deep voice. Ling Yuanzi said in a deep voice, but in his heart there was a burst of anxiety, hoping that the powerhouses of Yi Yuan School would come quickly. Jianqin said nothing. He charged toward Ling Yuanzi with the emperor armament in hand. His sharp eyes were filled with heavy killing intent. Ling Yuanzi became extremely stern as he watched Jianqin charge over. The current Jianqin was definitely a powerful existence that could threaten his life, yet the experts of the Yuan sect still had not arrived. If he continued to fight against Jianqin alone, he would not be able to escape death. Ling Yuanzi gritted his teeth as if he had finally made up his mind. He said with a deep voice, Jianqin, I'll spare your life for now. The next time we meet, you better pray for yourself. With that, Ling Yuanzi swung his arm through the air and directly ripped open a spatial crack. He used his abilities as a holy emperor to create a space gate, planning on escaping. Ling Yuanzi, don't even think about escaping. Jianqin roared at the sky. He swung the emperor armament and shot out a huge sword Qi toward the space gate. The huge black sword Qi cut through space. Wherever the sword Qi passed, a pitch-black spatial crack would be left behind. It rapidly extended toward the space gate that Ling Yuanzi had created. Boom! The sword Qi struck the space gate, and with a great boom, the violent shockwaves of energy shook up the surrounding space, obliterating a radius of several dozen meters and reducing it to darkness. The space gate was greatly affected by the constantly shaking space, directly collapsing, cutting off Ling Yuanzi's path of escape. Ling Yuanzi paled. As a great elder of a protector clan, a holy emperor with a great status, he had chosen to flee from a junior. This was already humiliating enough for him. Yet the space gate he had created had actually been destroyed by his opponent, cutting off his hopes of escape. This immediately made Ling Yuanzi feel his face burn. He had been utterly humiliated. Not only had he been forced to flee by a junior, but he had also lost the ability to flee in front of the other party. This made him feel extremely humiliated. Overwhelming fury burned in Ling Yuanzi's chest. He coldly stared at Jianqin, and determination filled his eyes. He yelled out, Jianqin, since my quasi-Saint tier battle skill, the Wind Cloud Blade Formation, can't kill you, I'll let you have a taste of a true Saint tier battle skill. Ling Yuanzi had no other choice now. He could only fight with his back against the wall. He had been completely frightened by Jianqin's great battle prowess. He did not understand Jianqin's situation, so he did not know that Jianqin's comprehension of the mysteries of the world was still at the 7th heavenly layer. If he chose to flee with his speed, Jianqin would not be able to catch up. An extremely powerful energy radiated from Ling Yuanzi, causing his clothes to flutter and his hair to dance despite the lack of wind. Suddenly, a tremendous pressure radiated from the surroundings, causing the space in a radius of several dozen kilometers to become viscous. It was as if the pressure could freeze the space there. The pressure from the surroundings pressed down layer by layer, forming chains that wrapped tightly around Jianchen. It wanted to restrict his movements. Jianchen bellowed out. The chaotic Niden in his dantian wildly surged with strands of chaotic force, fusing with every inch of his flesh and blood. He pushed the defenses of the chaotic body to the limit before suddenly jerking. He actually shattered the chains formed by the pressure of the surroundings, causing the space around him to violently tremble. As soon as Jianchen broke free, an extremely powerful pulse of energy appeared from up ahead. A huge finger had appeared before Ling Yuanzi. The finger was completely condensed from energy. It was 5 meters long and half a meter thick. It radiated with a terrifying pressure, causing the surrounding space to distort and blur. Jianchen finally became rather stern. Ling Yuanzi had finished charging his Saint Tier battle skill. With his strength at the 5th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor, his Saint Tier battle skill had already reached the 7th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. Jianchen felt slightly threatened. Jianchen, I refuse to believe that you can receive my Saint Tier battle skill safely. Die! Ling Yuanzi called out as he suddenly extended his hand toward Jianchen. Immediately, the huge finger condensed before him pierced through space, charging toward Jianchen with a devastating pressure. Jianchen sucked in a deep breath and advanced instead of retreating. He charged at the huge finger without any fear. The Emperor armament in his hand suddenly expanded, going from 4 feet long to 10 meters in the blink of an eye. He slashed through space and stabbed at the huge finger. Boom! A deafening sound rang out in the surroundings. The Emperor armament and the huge finger collided violently. Powerful and terrifying ripples of energy ripped through the surroundings, causing the space there to darken. Even the sun in the sky paled in comparison. Jianchen began to rapidly retreat from the violent ripples of energy. He could not stop himself from being blown away. Before him, the finger formed from the Saint Tier battle skill did not disperse. It continued to pursue Jianchen without slowing down at all, except it had shrunk by a 10th. Jianchen bellowed out as the 10-meter-long Emperor armament in his hand drew a beautiful, black arc in the air, viciously striking the finger once again. With a boom, the finger shrank by a 10th again from Jianchen's strike. The violent ripples of energy struck Jianchen, causing him to retreat even faster. His clothes had been ripped to shreds, revealing his golden armor. The finger was at the Holy Emperor's 7th heavenly layer, on par with Jianchen, or even slightly weaker. However, it was still a Saint Tier battle skill after all. It was different from regular attacks. Unless there was an absolute difference in strength between the two sides, it would not be so easy to nullify it. Jianchen furiously roared out. He struck out as hard as he could 10 times in a row before finally dispersing the Saint Tier battle skill. It dispersed into the surroundings as surging energy. He was protected by the chaotic body, so although he was not injured, he was still reduced to a horrible shape. Why? You actually managed to block my Saint Tier battle skill without being injured. How is that possible? Ling Yuanzi was stunned as he stared at Jianchen in the distance, in shock. He could not be any more shocked. He knew extremely well just how powerful his Saint Tier battle skill was. Even a 7th heavenly layer Holy Emperor would be slightly injured or even heavily injured if he blocked it. Jianchen was nowhere near as powerful as the Holy Emperor, yet he was able to nullify his Saint Tier battle skill so easily with his Emperor armament. He was not injured at all, which filled him with disbelief. Ling Yuanzi, you can't even injure me with a Saint Tier battle skill. I'd like to see just how you're going to fight me now. Jianchen laughed wildly as he used the illusory flash. He turned into a blur as he charged toward Ling Yuanzi. He began a close combat with Ling Yuanzi, engaging in a great battle. Ling Yuanzi clenched his teeth and endured, hoping to buy more time for the reinforcements to arrive. However, the difference in strength between him and Genshin was just far too great. He was heavily injured after just a few exchanges. The bones in his chest had been shattered by a single kick from Genshin, causing his entire chest to cave in. All his organs had ruptured, while the wound on his neck was even worse. Half of his neck had been chopped off. If it were not for the fact that he had dodged quickly, his head probably would have been separated from his body. Just as Ling Yuanzi was in danger, a space gate suddenly appeared in the sky. Immediately, several tremendous presences radiated out. The reinforcements from the Yuan sect had finally arrived. Ling Yuanzi rejoiced. He no longer cared about his face as he called out for help. "Yangzi, save me!" Ling Yuanzi's miserable voice was clearly transmitted into the space gate, which immediately caused the space gate to form even faster. Genshin's heart sank slightly. He knew that he did not have much time to kill Ling Yuanzi. He immediately attacked like a thunderbolt. His long sword pierced through the air and went straight for the space between Ling Yuanzi's eyebrows. Ling Yuanzi immediately used his scimitar to block in front of him. Although it had blocked Genshin's fatal blow, it had also caused the injuries on his body to worsen, causing him to vomit blood incessantly. Genshin's eyes were cold. He did not hesitate in the slightest. The second sword followed closely behind, breaking through the shackles of space, and continued to stab at the space between Ling Yuanzi's eyebrows as fast as lightning. Ling Yuanzi's pupils shrunk to the size of a needle. There was a look of unwillingness in his eyes. In the face of Genshin's thunderbolt sword, he, who had been continuously injured, no longer had the ability to resist. At this moment, the space gate had stabilized. A white-robed old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion stepped out of the space gate first. As soon as he stepped out, he saw Ling Yuanzi on the brink of death. His face immediately changed as he yelled out, "Stop!" The old man extended a finger, and a powerful strand of energy immediately pierced through space, breaking through the limits of distance. It approached Genshin in a single moment and viciously struck the Emperor armament that was stabbing at Ling Yuanzi. As soon as the Emperor armament came in contact with Ling Yuanzi's forehead, it was knocked away by the powerful strand of energy. The tiny strand of energy contained unbelievable power, actually causing Genshin's arm to become numb. Genshin was astounded. He knew that the strength of the person who had come was not something he could contend against, but he did not show any fear at all. He stabbed out with the Emperor armament once again, determined to kill Ling Yuanzi. "Don't you dare!" Yangzi was infuriated. With a wave of his hand, the wind in the surroundings kicked up. A hurricane that could pierce through the surroundings suddenly formed, whistling toward Genshin. Genshin's Emperor armament had already pierced through Ling Yuanzi's forehead. Just when it was halfway in, the hurricane arrived. The rapidly spinning wind seemed to have turned into sharp blades, constantly slicing at Genshin's body. It caused intense pain to appear all over Genshin's body. White marks immediately appeared on his tough body. At the same time, the violent wind actually pulled him back, preventing the Emperor armament from advancing any further. Instead, it slowly pulled out from Ling Yuanzi's forehead, unable to pierce through his soul and destroy it. Even so, it still caused unimaginable damage to Ling Yuanzi's Yuan spirit, causing him to uncontrollably release a scream. Soon after, the top of his head suddenly cracked open as a dim and lightless Yuan spirit escaped, flying towards the enraged Yangzi with lightning speed. Ling Yuanzi had actually abandoned his body and escaped with his soul. As soon as Ling Yuanzi's soul left his body, the head of his body exploded loudly. Strands of destructive, black energy penetrated his head, blasting it to pieces. Genshin's body became more and more uncontrollable under the pull of the hurricane. Seeing Ling Yuanzi's soul escape, he immediately panicked. He directly swung his sword and shot out a powerful sword chi that tore through space, pursuing Ling Yuanzi's soul. Chapter 973. As soon as Ling Yuanzi struck out, the space before him immediately collapsed. A hand that was half a meter wide condensed in an instant, striking toward Jianqin with lightning-like speed as a blur. Jianqin became extremely stern. A tremendous pressure had locked onto him. The pressure did not come from Yangzi, but from the palm strike that Yangzi had casually struck out. Jianqin actually felt like he could not dodge the palm that was completely condensed from energy. It was as if no matter how he dodged, he would not be able to avoid the pursuit of the palm. Jianqin shivered inside. He switched from holding the Emperor armament with one hand to holding it with both hands. He raised the Emperor armament high above his head and swung out a few times with all his might. Several powerful sword chi tore through the air, shooting toward Yangzi's palm in a straight line. Yangzi's palm strike was unimaginably powerful. When the sword chi collided with the palm, they all dispersed, but the palm did not slow down at all. It continued toward Jianqin, but after being weakened by the sword chi, it had become much weaker. Bang! The palm of energy struck Jianqin mercilessly. Jianqin's chaotic body shattered in a single moment, and even the golden silk armor was unable to stop it. His entire chest caved in as his bones shattered inch by inch. A grunt rang out from Jianqin's throat. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth as he was blown away. He only stabilized himself after flying several kilometers. Jianqin was astounded. Yangzi's strength had far exceeded his imagination. Yangzi's casual palm strike still possessed such terrifying power after being weakened by several sword chi, which deeply shocked him. At this moment, the remaining great elders and saint rulers of the Yuan sect all emerged from the space gate. When they saw Ling Yuanzi's soul in Yangzi's hand, they were all shocked, but their shock was soon replaced by surging fury. They all glared at Jianqin viciously. Ling Yuanzi was injured by you. Who are you? How dare you injure a great elder of our protector sect? Are you tired of living? A great elder at the very front furiously yelled at Jianqin. He was filled with dignity. He's the Jianqin we're looking for. He's returned with the winged tiger, Ling Yuanzi's soul said weakly. What? He's Jianqin. Ling Yuanzi's words shocked all the people from the Yuan sect. They all stared at Jianqin in shock as disbelief filled their eyes. How is that possible? Jianqin is clearly only a saint ruler, yet this person is a holy emperor. It's impossible for him to be Jianqin. Ling Yuanzi, have you got the wrong person? A great elder from the Yuan sect asked in disbelief. He would never believe that someone could go from the third heavenly layer of saint ruler to the level of a holy emperor in just a few years. It's him. It can't be wrong. He heavily injured my soul with the Godfall technique back then. I'd recognize him even if he's turned to dust. Look, the little beast on his shoulder is the winged tiger, said Ling Yuanzi. Hearing this, the eyes of everyone from Yuan school suddenly converged on the little white tiger on Jianqin's shoulder. At this moment, the little white tiger was still firmly standing on Jianqin's shoulder, its pair of bright little eyes firmly staring at the group of people from Yuan school. Its fur had become somewhat messy under the impact of the violent energy aftermath, but it hadn't suffered the slightest injury. Jianqin silently circulated the chaotic force within him. The insane healing ability of the chaotic body was displayed perfectly at this moment. The wounds on his chest rapidly healed as his broken bones regrew. Jianqin could not help but sneer inside when he noticed how the people from the Yuan sect looked at the white tiger. A while later, a gleam of light flashed through Yangzi's eyes. He had finally confirmed the identity of the white tiger. His eyes burned with desire as he said, I can vaguely sense a pressure from it. It really is the winged tiger. It can't be wrong. After listening to the words of Yangzi, The complexions of all the powerhouses of Yuan School suddenly became excited. Each and every one of them looked at Little White Tiger with eyes full of greed, as if Little White Tiger was not a magical beast, but a priceless treasure. Fantastic! I never thought that we would encounter a winged tiger first. The winged tiger belongs to our Yuan sect now. Jianqin, you may have an emperor armament, but you're not our opponent. Hand over the winged tiger obediently. Don't force us to attack you. A grand elder of the Yuan sect laughed heartily, as if the winged tiger god was already in their pocket. Jian Chen's face was filled with disdain. He pointed the emperor armament at the great elder and provoked. If you want the winged tiger god, feel free to come and take it. However, I'm afraid you don't have the ability. How arrogant! The great elder became furious. He wanted to charge up and fight Jianqin, but he was stopped by Yangzi. Yangzi slowly stepped forward and calmly stared at Jianqin. He said, Ling Fingzi, you're not his opponent. The winged tiger is extremely important. We need to take the winged tiger before the other protector clans arrive. We can't waste too much time, so let me do it. With that, Yangzi took a step forward. Immediately, a spatial ripple appeared beneath his feet, causing him to suddenly vanish. When he reappeared, he had crossed over 10 kilometers and was right in front of Jianqin. He extended his hand toward the white tiger on Jianqin's shoulder. Jianqin sneered. With a thought, the divine hall of the 8 wastelands immediately appeared in front of him, blocking Yangzi's hand that reached for the white tiger. The sudden appearance of the divine hall surprised Yangzi. His hand that reached for the white tiger froze in the air as surprise filled his eyes. He softly cried out, That's the Holy Emperor's divine hall. I never thought that not only did you obtain an emperor armament, you even have a Holy Emperor's divine hall. The sudden appearance of the divine palace not only surprised Yangzi, but also surprised the several Yuan School's Taishan elders and many powerhouses behind him. Jianqin ignored everyone's surprise. The divine hall of the 8 wastelands suddenly expanded under his control, reaching several thousand meters in size in a single moment. It hovered in the air like a dark cloud. Jianqin flew into the divine hall with the white tiger. His loud voice rang out from within. People of the Yuan sect, I'd like to see just how you'll steal the winged tiger from me today. Bring it all on. I, Jianqin, will take all of you. Jianqin's voice was filled with arrogance. He was openly challenging the dignity of the Yuan sect. Yangzi's face paled. He furiously said, Jianqin, don't think that you can be arrogant just because you have a Holy Emperor's divine hall. Do you really think that I can't do anything to you? Get out here. A vast and majestic energy, fluctuation, surged out from Yangzi's body. It transformed into a huge palm that was several hundred meters in size in front of him. It ruthlessly slammed down on the 8 wastelands' divine hall. Boom! With a loud bang, the 8 wastelands' divine hall suddenly shook violently. However, it stabilized very quickly. Yangzi's powerful palm strike was unable to damage the divine hall at all. At this time, the 8 wastelands' divine hall flew above Yangzi's head. Then it directly fell down from the sky. The huge base of the divine hall pressed down on Yangzi's head and rapidly fell down. It seemed that it wanted to smash Yangzi into the ground. Yangzi was utterly infuriated when he sensed Jianqin's intentions. Although he could dodge, his pride and dignity as one of the most powerful experts on the Tianyuan continent prevented him from dodging. Yangzi raised his head and roared into the sky. Surging energy vibrated around his body, twisting the space around him. At the same time, the natural powers and the formless natural powers within a 10,000-mile radius began to gather, eventually forming hundreds of meter-wide palms that bombarded the base of the divine palace. He wanted to knock the divine palace away with his great power. However, even the hall elders of the Serpent God Hall were helpless against the 8 wastelands' divine hall. Although Yangzi possessed the strength of a hall elder, he was just one person. How could he stop the divine hall from falling? He rapidly fell from the divine hall, drawing closer and closer to the ground. The great elders in the distance all sank when they saw this. One of them immediately yelled out, "Let's hurry over and help Yangzi." The great elders and the saint rulers did not hesitate at all. They quickly flew toward the divine hall in an attempt to stop the 8 wastelands divine hall with their combined strength. However, even if they worked together, they were still unable to stop the divine hall from falling. The divine hall continued to fall without slowing down at all, smashing into the ground heavily in the end. Boom! The earth quaked and the mountains swayed. The entire land was shaking violently. Thick cracks appeared on the surrounding mountains. A huge crater had appeared where the divine hall had landed. The entire divine hall had disappeared into the horizon, sinking deep into the ground. All the experts of the Yuan sect, including the great elders, had been smashed into the ground by the divine hall. A few miles away, the ground suddenly burst open, and all the powerhouses of Yuan school flew out from the underground passage outside the shrine. They were all covered in dust and dirt, and their bodies were in a sorry state. Their bodies were covered in mud. Although they didn't suffer any serious injuries, the loss of face was more serious than killing them. They were one of the 10 great protector clans of the Tianyuan continent, yet they had been reduced to such a horrible state by a junior. All the people of the Yuan sect felt humiliated. This was a great humiliation that they would never be able to wash away. Jianqin, Yangzi, could no longer remain composed. He roared out furiously at the sky. His voice was filled with great fury and killing intent. At this moment, Yangzi's fury had reached its limit. Chapter 974. With a loud rumble, the 8 Wastelands shrine slowly rose from the ground and flew back into the sky. Jianqin's thunderous voice rang out from the 8 Wastelands shrine. "You want to kill me? Come, I'd like to see how you're going to bury me here today." Jianqin was unforgiving. With the 8 Wastelands shrine protecting him, he completely disregarded the protector clans. He controlled the 8 Wastelands shrine to fly above the heads of the many experts of Yuan school. He wanted to do the same thing as before and smash them all into the ground. All the people of Yuan school had ashen complexions. Each and every one of them was trembling with anger. They were a dignified protector clan, respected and worshipped by everyone on the continent. Over the countless years, they had never been bullied to such an embarrassing state. Yangzi could no longer remain calm. He furiously said, "Jianqin, don't think that you're the only one with a holy emperor shrine. My Yuan school also has one. Great elders take the holy emperor shrine." With that, Yangzi waved his hand in the air. Immediately, a spatial crack was torn open, quickly forming a space gate that led to the interior of Yuan school. He then sucked with his hand, and a palm-sized shrine that had been enshrined on the altar immediately flew out. The shrine rapidly expanded in Yangzi's hand. In the blink of an eye, it had expanded to 3,000 meters. Yangzi then flew into the shrine and controlled it to furiously crash into Jianqin's 8 Wasteland shrine. The other great elders also cut space to form a space gate. They then directly entered the space gate and disappeared. They had already returned to the protector clans to take the shrine. They were not as powerful as Yangzi, so they could not take the shrine like Yangzi. They could only return to the protector clans to take it. Because of some rules, the protector clans did not recognize the shrine as its master like Jianqin. Instead, they placed it in the clan and would not carry it with them. They would only take it out when they needed it and control it with a secret method. Boom! Yangzi's shrine violently collided with the shrine of the 8 Wastelands in the air. It immediately erupted with a deafening boom. The terrifying sound waves expanded in all directions as visible ripples, causing the mountains below to collapse. Many rocks were reduced to dust. Although the divine halls did not possess much offensive power, they still possessed the power of saint emperors. The collision of the two divine halls in the air was like a battle between two saint emperors. Just the sound waves were enough to kill heaven's saint masters. The sound waves were so powerful that they could rip apart the soul of any heaven's saint master. If the shrines shrine Holy Emperor of Flame, the sound waves would be enough to annihilate all the people in the sky. 2. If they were to fight in the sky to fight in the city, the sound waves would be enough to annihilate all the people in the city. After the collision, the two divine halls remained unscathed. However, the powerful recoil forced the two divine halls back rapidly. Both sides had unleashed their true power. As soon as the shrines stabilized, they continued to control the shrines to collide with each other. The battle was earth-shattering, causing countless mountains to collapse. Very soon, the other great elders of the Yuan sect all took out their shrines. Each of them controlled a shrine, including the one controlled by Yangzi. There were a total of 5 shrines in the air. They aggressively collided with Jianshan's shrine of the 8 wastelands to vent their anger. Arg! Jianshan bellowed out. He showed no fear at all. He controlled the shrine of the 8 wastelands to collide with the 5 shrines in front of him in an unstoppable manner. Now, the battle between Jianshan and the Yuan sect had evolved into a clash between shrines. Although neither side was able to injure the other, the battle was extremely intense. The impact of the collision between the 6 divine palaces was even more powerful. The terrifying sound waves wreaked havoc between the heaven and earth, tearing the void apart. The mountains below collapsed one by one. Even the vitality of the heaven and earth was affected greatly and began to violently riot. The 6 shrines collided time and time again in the air, erupting with great disturbances that alarmed all the peak experts on the continent. In an unknown void in Mercenary City, Tianjian, who was dressed in white, sat cross-legged in the void within the floating divine palace. His eyes were slightly closed, and his eyebrows had already turned slightly white. Before Tianjian sat the black-robed Mingdong and the half-naked Taita. The 2 of them had been cultivating under Tianjian's personal guidance for the past few years, so their rate of improvement could be described as godly. Both of them radiated with dense presences at this moment. Suddenly, Tianjian's eyes snapped open. A gleam of light immediately flashed through his eyes. He cast his gaze into the distance, as if he could see through space. It's actually a clash between 6 shrines. 5 of them belong to the protector Yuan sect. So who controls the last one? They're actually bold enough to oppose the protector Yuan sect. Tianjian softly murmured. With a single movement, he vanished. On the outskirts of the Cross mountain range, in a quiet little valley, a white-haired old farmer was barefooted in the mud, constantly waving the hoe in his hand to dig the soil. Suddenly, the old man's indifferent gaze sharpened at that moment. He stared into the distance in interest, and even stopped swinging the hoe in his hand. What powerful shock waves! Who's fighting? Have the experts of the Beast God continent come again? The old farmer murmured in a low voice. Then he closed his eyes and used a secret technique to spy on what was happening in the distance. After a while, he sighed. It turns out that someone is controlling a divine palace to confront Yuan school. I don't know who is controlling the divine palace, but he dares to openly provoke the 10 great guardian families. However, this matter has nothing to do with me. I've already left the Tianyuan continent and will no longer interfere with the matters of the continent. As long as the experts of the Beast God continent don't invade and little Fatty's life is not threatened, I won't care even if the sky falls down. As soon as he reached there, the old farmer paused. Surprise flashed through his eyes, and he said in surprise, strange, "Why do I feel a familiar presence from the divine hall? It seems to be related to the cultivation method of our Bloodsword sect. Who's controlling the divine hall?" The old farmer frowned heavily. He lowered his head in thought before mumbling to himself, "No, I have to go take a look." The old farmer swung the hoe in his hand and used it to rip open a space gate. He walked through the space gate barefoot with the hoe in his hand. A large mirror of water hovered in another region of space. It played the battle between the 6 divine halls. Below the mirror, a white-robed, evil-looking, middle-aged man lay on a patch of grass as he watched with interest. It was as if he was watching a wonderful show. I never thought that Jianqin would become so powerful after just a few years. It really is unbelievable. Now that Jianqin is protected by the Divine Hall, I'd like to see just how the 10 protector clans are going to take the winged tiger from him. Back then, the 10 protector clans spent quite a lot of effort fighting for the winged tiger. They did everything they could to find Jianqin and obtain the winged tiger. Now that Jianqin has returned and the winged tiger is by his side, I wonder how the 10 protector clans will react when they discover that they can't take the winged tiger from Jianqin. I really look forward to that moment. I'll definitely witness the 10 protector clans being humiliated. The middle-aged man on the grass snickered evilly. At this time, a very beautiful woman in her 20s walked over leisurely from afar. She lamented, "Husband, this concubine seems to be pregnant. You didn't even come to accompany me." The young and beautiful woman's tone was full of complaints. The middle-aged man waved his hand, and the mirror in the sky immediately shattered. Afterward, he stood up and made his way toward the woman with a wide smile. "Ha ha ha! My 88th child is finally about to be born." Beyond the sea, at the bottom of the lunisolar cave on the fog-shrouded Dragon Island, the starlight still shone brightly. It dyed the lunisolar cave into a cosmos, which was extremely mesmerizing. At this moment, the calm space of the moon star cave suddenly began to ripple. 2 figures slowly materialized from nothingness. One of them was a middle-aged man in his 40s, while the other was an old man in his 70s. They were Ruijin and the mutated crocodile Blackfish, who had been separated from Jianqin all those years ago. Almost 10 years had passed, but the 2 of them had not changed at all. Their complexions were the same as before, and their clothes were neat and tidy. They were not damaged at all. The only difference was that the 2 of them seemed like completely ordinary people right now. They seemed extremely ordinary. Ruijin glanced around and murmured, "We've finally returned. Let's go find Jianqin quickly. We can't let anything happen to him, or I, Ruijin, will never be able to see my clansmen again." Blackfish nodded. "Jianqin is from the Tianyuan continent, so he should be there. Let's go find him there." The 8 wastelands divine hall under Jianqin's control continued to clash with the 5 divine halls of the Yuan sect. Both sides were locked in a stalemate, and neither side was willing to stop. As they fought, the space in the surroundings silently cracked open, forming over a dozen space gates. Experts constantly emerged from them, and every single one of them possessed the strength of a holy emperor. In just a few seconds, several dozen holy emperor-level experts had gathered. The 10 great clans of the Tianyuan continent had finally gathered once again. Aside from them, the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Tianjin, and the sect master of the Blood Sword sect, Houston, were also present. As soon as they emerged from the space gates, they all stared at the 6 divine halls that were violently clashing in the air. Surprise filled their faces. Houston did not glance at the 5 divine halls of the Yuan sect. Instead, he stared fixedly at the 8 wastelands divine hall under Jianqin's control. His face was filled with mixed emotions as well as endless doubt. He softly murmured, "That's right. It can't be wrong. This divine hall really is related to the cultivation method of our Blood Sword sect. I can actually sense a sliver of power from the divine hall. However, the forging divine hall is the ability of the Holy Emperor. Our Blood Sword sect has never produced a Holy Emperor. So who is controlling the divine hall? Where did this divine hall come from, and who created it?" Chapter 975. Jianqin and the great elders of the Yuan sect had obviously discovered the arrival of the 10 protector clans, but they did not stop. Jianqin fought alone with the 8 wastelands divine hall, fighting 1 against 5. Without any fear, he rammed into the 5 divine halls of the Yuan sect, becoming more and more courageous as he fought. The collision of the 6 divine halls alarmed many Holy Emperor experts on the continent. After the people from the Protector clans arrived, space gates appeared one after another in the surroundings. Holy Emperor experts of various ages walked out one after another. There were ancestors of ancient clans and some hermits. Among them was Changyang Zuyin Shao, who lived in Changyang Prefecture in Lore City. As soon as they arrived, their eyes fell on the 6 palaces that were constantly colliding with each other. They were all guessing who was controlling the palaces and who dared to openly challenge the dignity of the 10 great guardian families and make an enemy of Yuan sect. The 5 great elders of the Yuan sect fought with Genshin's 8 Wastelands Divine Hall for quite some time. Seeing that they were unable to do anything to the other side, they finally could not help themselves and loudly said, "Everyone, the ancient winged tiger is in that divine hall. Please assist us in destroying the divine hall and capturing the winged tiger." The words of the great elders were shocking everyone in the surroundings. They immediately looked at the 8 Wastelands Divine Hall in disbelief. Is that true, Ling Tian? Is the ancient divine beast really hiding in that divine hall? The Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Tian Jian, asked with a heavy voice. He was surprised and doubtful. That's impossible. Isn't the winged tiger by Genshin's side? And Genshin has gone to the Sea Realm, so the winged tiger is naturally there as well. How could it suddenly appear in that divine hall? Don't fool us, Ling Tian. A Yuan sect, don't tell me you can't deal with the enemy, so you're purposely misleading us with false information so that you can borrow our strength to deal with the enemy. Yuan School's Supreme Elder Ling Tianzi's words caused a huge sensation. The 10 great guardian clans of Tianyuan continent and the people of Mercenary City all voiced their doubts. This matter was related to the ancient mythological beast, the winged tiger. None of them could stay out of it. Houston, the ancient clans, and the idle Holy Emperor didn't say anything. Although the winged tiger was tempting them, they knew that this wasn't something they could participate in. The only thing they could do was to watch the show. Everyone, i.e. Jinzi, can guarantee that Ling Fingzi's words are true. The ancient winged tiger is indeed in the Divine Hall, and the person controlling the Divine Hall is Genshin, who fled to the Sea Realm with the winged tiger in the past. At the same time, one of our supreme elders, Ling Yuanzi, has been beaten to a pulp by Genshin. A supreme elder's voice rang out from the Divine Hall. What? The person controlling the Divine Hall is Genshin? The people of the 10 great clans all cried out. They all found it hard to believe. Tianjian's eyes immediately shone with a golden light. He stared at the Divine Hall of the 8 Wastelands in interest as shock filled his face. Houston carried a hoe forged from an ordinary piece of metal on his shoulder. His deep eyes also shone brightly as he stared at the Divine Hall of the 8 Wastelands. Disbelief filled his eyes as well. The Holy Emperor ancestors gathered in the surroundings were all shocked. They had heard of Genshin's name in the past few years, but none of them had thought that Genshin, who was clearly only a saint ruler in their eyes, would actually be the person who controlled the Divine Hall and fended off the Yuan sect. All of them found it hard to believe. The people from the Protector clans of Changyang Prefecture became excited after being shocked. In particular, Changyang Zuyin Shao and Changyang Zhu Shao became even more excited. This was because not only was Genshin a member of the Changyang Prefecture, but he was also a member of their Zhu branch. Genshin has actually returned, and he's become so powerful. Fantastic, truly fantastic. I'll go bring Kong, immediately. Changyang Zuyin Shao said with a trembling voice before immediately ripping open a space gate and leaving. I never thought that the mighty Yuan sect would ask for help from a junior. I finally witnessed it today. Genshin's voice rang out from the Divine Hall of the 8 Wastelands. His voice was filled with mockery. Genshin, you're far too arrogant. Do you really think that my Yuan sect can't do anything to you if you hide in the Divine Hall? Yangzi angrily said. Jian Chen's blatant provocation made everyone in the Yuan school feel like they had lost face. Tianjian and Houston immediately rejoiced when they heard Jianshin's familiar voice. If they had any doubts about Jianshin's identity before, they were completely convinced now. I never thought that he would actually return, and that he would return so quickly. This has greatly exceeded my expectations. Tianjian smiled happily. It's good that you've returned. You still need to take back what was taken from you back then. Jianshin, your accomplishments have already far exceeded my expectations. However, young people are still far too impulsive. A single Divine Hall can't do anything to a protector clan, Houston also softly murmured. At this moment, the other 7 protector clans aside from the Changyang Prefecture and the Pure Heart Pavilion all stepped forward. They vaguely surrounded Jianshin. The contest between Jianshin and the Yuan sect finally came to an end. Several supreme elders of the Yuan sect came out of the Divine Hall one after another. They gathered together and stared coldly at Jianshin. Their faces were green with anger. Jianshin controlled the 8 Wastelands Divine Hall to float in the air. His figure appeared on top of the Divine Hall. He stared expressionlessly at the 10 protector clans who had already surrounded him. There was no trace of fear on his face. On his shoulder, the kitten-sized white tiger also stood up with its head held high. Its pair of small eyes stared coldly at the 10 protector clans. Its body naturally exuded an aura of disdain for the world. It had the majesty of a divine beast. Although the white tiger was young and immature, it was full of intelligence. It also knew that the group of people around it were bad guys. Everyone look. That's the winged tiger. As soon as the white tiger was exposed, it immediately attracted everyone's attention. Immediately, including the 10 protector clans, everyone shifted their gazes from Jianshin to the white tiger. Their eyes were filled with greed. Jianshin could not help but sneer when he saw the expressions of the people around him. He proudly said, "The winged tiger is on me. If you want it, then go ahead." As he spoke, a tremendous presence radiated from Jianshin. It caused the surrounding space to tremble and blur, shocking everyone. This was because the strength of the presence had already reached the level of the 3rd heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. How is this possible? He was clearly only a 3rd heavenly layer Saint Ruler back on the Tianyuan continent. How has he become a Holy Emperor now? In just 10 short years, his strength has increased to such a level. This. Everyone was shocked, including the people from the protector clans. Only the people from the Yuan sect, who had witnessed Jianshin's strength, remained composed. At this moment, the Emperor armament was drawn out of Jianshin's space ring. Immediately, a terrifying energy that caused the expressions of many Holy Emperor experts present to change began to radiate from the Emperor armament. It had reached the level of the 7th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. The Holy Emperor's strength at the 7th heavenly layer had far surpassed many of the Holy Emperor experts present. There were only a handful of people who could suppress Jianshin. Jianshin had already displayed his full strength. He could not hold back at all against the protector clans. Today, he wanted everyone to know that the reason why Jianshin dared to oppose the protector clans was not only because of the 8 Wastelands Divine Hall, but also because of his own strength. The current him was no longer the Saint King from 10 years ago that all Saint Emperors would disdain. Everyone present gasped. At this moment, the hearts of many people could not help but begin to thump. Jianshin's current strength was enough to make many people tremble. Tianjian and Houston had become stunned. The 2 of them stared at Jianshin in shock as their hearts churned. The 2 of them were the people who had come into contact with Jianshin the earliest. When Jianshin was only an Earth Saint Master, Tianjian and Houston already knew about Jianshin. As a result, the 2 of them knew about Jianshin's growth extremely well. However, they were unable to connect him to the puny Earth Saint Master from back then when they saw how he dared to openly provoke the Protector clans in such high spirits. The people from the Protector clans looked at each other. Back then, they had tried to steal the winged tiger because they did not take a saint ruler like Genshin seriously at all. Now that Genshin's strength had skyrocketed and reached such an unbelievable level, their opinion of Genshin immediately changed drastically. Just Genshin's strength was enough for the Protector clans to take him seriously, let alone the fact that he also had a divine hull, which made him even more difficult to deal with. Aside from that, Genshin's background was extremely special as well. He was a member of the Protector clan of Changyang Prefecture. The people from the Protector clans all looked at each other and hesitated. They were unwilling to miss out on such a great opportunity to obtain the winged tiger so easily, so they were stuck between a rock and a hard place. The great elders from the Yangji Zong Protector clan also hesitated. Genshin had destroyed a branch of the Yangji Zong in the past. Originally, they wanted to use this as an excuse to make a fuss, but now that they had witnessed Genshin's strength, they began to hesitate. They did not know whether they should continue using this matter to ask for an explanation from Genshin. The Yuan sect would not let Genshin off so easily. A great elder called out, "Genshin, you injured the great elder of our Yuan sect, Ling Yuanzi. You must give us an explanation for this matter." Chapter 976. Ling Yuanzi heavily injured me above the sea in the past and almost killed me. It's only right that I kill him for revenge, Genshin retorted. Afterward, he glared at the people in the surroundings and furiously said, "My flame city has been taken away and the flame mercenaries have been chased out of the city. Do you Protector clans dare to say that you didn't interfere in this matter? Genshin, we Protector clans have a rule. We cannot develop any powerful organizations on the continent. As a member of a Protector clan, you obviously have to abide by this rule. However, the scale of your flame mercenaries has already exceeded this limit, and you've even taken over a city forged from tungsten alloy. Obviously, you need to disband," a great elder sternly said. A sliver of mixed emotions appeared in Genshin's eyes when he heard that, but it disappeared very quickly. He coldly replied, "What a bunch of nonsense. I, Genshin, was born in Lore City in the kingdom of Jesson. I have nothing to do with a Protector clan, let alone being a member of one." The great elder of Changyang Prefecture, Changyang Zhu Xiao, stepped forward and emotionally stared at Genshin. His emotions were extremely mixed as well. He said with a rather trembling voice, "Genshin, you're a member of our Protector clan, Changyang Prefecture. Changyang Zhu Yunkong, who founded Changyang Prefecture in Lore City back then, is my great-grandson. You're Yunkong's descendant, so you're also my great-grandson. The bloodline of our Protector clan, Changyang Prefecture, flows through your veins." Genshin remained emotionless. Just when he was about to retort, a space gate suddenly ripped open beside Changyang Zhu Xiao. Changyang Zhu Yun Xiao, who had just left, walked out with a large group of people behind him. Changyang Zuyun, Changyang Zuyunkong by Hai, Jitatai, Chongwuji, Yuyu by Lian, Yufengyan, and so on had all arrived. "Look carefully. Is he Changyang Shodan?" Changyang Zuyun Xiao asked the people behind him. His voice was rather excited. He had purposely returned to Changyang Prefecture in Lore City to bring Changbo and his group here to verify Genshin's identity. He was afraid that the Genshin in front of him was a fake. "Brother!" Soaring Sky, fourth young master. Genshin, when Changbo and the others looked at Genshin, they immediately became emotional. Changbo, Yufengyan by Lian, and Yu even shed tears of joy. Good. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back, by Hai constantly muttered. He was extremely emotional inside as well. The graceful Changyang Zhu Geiyun stared at Genshin in a daze. She sighed in amazement. Is he the clansman who saved Kong? How has he become so powerful? The presence he gives off actually makes me feel like I'm suffocating. Is he not a saint ruler? Impossible. His age. Changyang Zhu Shao gently sighed when he heard that. He said softly, Jianqin is no longer the Jianqin you knew in the past. He's a holy emperor now. With the emperor armament in hand, he can fight against 7th heavenly layer, holy emperor. There aren't a lot of people who can keep him at bay on the Tianyuan continent anymore. Changyang Zhu Yunshao, Changyang Ziyun, and Changyang Zhu Yunkong all became stunned when they heard that. They could not be any more shocked inside. A while later, Changyang Zhu Yunkong could not help but laugh in delight. He said, I'm already satisfied with having such an outstanding clansman. Great-grandson, you're now a supreme expert who can shock the world. You can do whatever you like. Our protector clan of the Changyang Prefecture will support you. Jianqin's killing intent immediately receded when he saw his relatives appear before him one after another. He became extremely emotional, but he knew that this was not the time to reminisce, so he forcefully suppressed it. Jianqin, I'm sorry. We failed to live up to your expectations and failed to protect Flame City. It was taken away by someone else. Yu sobbed as tears streamed down her face. She blamed herself very much. Jianqin looked at Yu. He felt pained when he saw how haggard Yu's face was. Jianqin had always felt a deep sense of guilt towards Yu. He owed Yu far, far too much. Yu, I already know about what happened in Flame City. It's not your fault. Don't worry, Jianqin, will take back everything that was taken away by someone else in the past. Jianqin comforted her before looking at Changyang Zhu Yunkong. He said, Great-grandfather, do you still think of yourself as someone from Changyang Prefecture after how they treated you back then? Has the seal in your head been removed? Changyang Zhu Yunkong's face darkened when he heard that. He immediately fell silent. The expressions of the great elders of the Changyang clan all became rather unnatural. Changyang Zhu Shao gently sighed and said, Although Konger made some mistakes back then and was expelled from the clan, the blood of Changyang Prefecture still flows in his veins. That cannot be doubted. At the same time, Kong has been accepted as a member of Changyang Prefecture again. Let's not talk about this for now. Today, Jianqin, will take back Flame City and revive the Flame Mercenaries. Will your Changyang Prefecture stop me? Jianqin stood on the Divine Hall as he glared at the people from Changyang Prefecture. The great elders of Changyang Prefecture frowned and looked at each other. They were all troubled. With Jianqin's current strength, they could no longer forcefully order Jianqin to do anything. Jianqin sneered inside when he saw their expressions. He ignored the people from Changyang Prefecture and slowly glanced past the 9 other protector clans. He said, Today Jianqin, will take back Flame City and revive the Flame Mercenaries. Who will stop me? Step forward. Jianqin's voice was harsh. He did not show any respect to the protector clans at all. He did not have a good impression of them at all. If it were not for Tian Jian's assistance back then, he probably would not have been able to leave the Tianyuan continent and head to the Sea Realm. He would have ended up in the hands of the protector clans in the end. Although his life would not have been in danger, the White Tiger would have definitely left him. At the same time, the loss of Flame City and the collapse of the Flame Mercenaries were directly related to the protector clans. Jianqin held quite a lot of resentment towards the protector clans. Humph, how arrogant. Jianqin, don't think that you can look down on us protector clans just because you have a shitty divine hall. The dignity of the protector clans cannot be violated. Destroying your divine hall is nothing difficult. Ling Fingzi from the Yuan sect yelled out. Jianqin, the rules between us protector clans have been established for thousands of years. We cannot allow anyone to break them. As a member of a protector clan, you should abide by these rules. You cannot take back Flame City, said the pavilion master of the Pure Heart Pavilion, Wichenzi. Jianqin, if you take back Flame City, you will be openly challenging the authority of the 10 protector clans. You will become an enemy of the 10 protector clans, said the old schoolmaster of the Heaven's Incense School emotionlessly. Jianchen, if you insist on doing this, the 10 protector clans will work together to suppress you according to the rules. Even the Changyang prefecture behind you will be affected. Unless you are not a member of a protector clan, we will not interfere with any of your matters. Aside from the protector clans from Changyang prefecture, all the people from the 10 protector clans spoke out. They were all against Jianchen taking back Flame City. Their voices were extremely harsh, leaving no room for negotiation. Jianchen's face sank. He slowly turned his head and stared at the great elders of Changyang prefecture. He emotionlessly said, "You have 2 choices right now. The first is to fight against the protector clans with me and take back Flame City. The second is that I, Jianchen, will break away from Changyang prefecture and have nothing to do with your protector clan in Changyang prefecture." The expressions of the great elders from Changyang prefecture changed. Changyang Qingyin immediately yelled out, "Jianchen, the blood of Changyang prefecture flows through your veins. How can you break away just because you want to? You cannot interfere with the matters of Flame City. This is the rule between us, protector clans. You have no right to order me around. No matter who gets in my way today, I, Jianchen, will take back Flame City." Jianchen yelled out. "You." Changyang Qingyan's face changed as a sliver of anger appeared in his heart. The people from the other protector clans all looked at each other. The situation had become rather strange. Jianchen was a member of the protector clan in Changyang prefecture, so he could use the name of Changyang prefecture and his own strength to successfully protect the winged tiger, making them speechless. However, the current situation was rather unexpected. Jianchen's relationship with Changyang prefecture did not seem to be as harmonious as they had imagined. The light in Yi Yangzi's eyes flickered as he hesitated. A while later, he seemed to have finally made up his mind. He sneered, "Jianchen, don't even think about taking back Flame City today. Without the Divine Hall, I'd like to see how you're going to stand up to us. Let's destroy your Divine Hall right now. Great elders of the Yuan sect, listen up. Use the Emperor armament together and destroy his Divine Hall to avenge Ling Yuanzi." The expressions of the great elders of the Yuan sect changed. Goldie cried out in surprise, "What? He's actually using the Emperor armament. Yi Yangzi, are you sure you're using the Emperor armament? The power of the Emperor armament is just too terrifying. If you use it, we'll all suffer a powerful backlash." Ling Tianzi also cried out. He was stern. Yi Yangzi's face sank. He angrily roared, "If I don't do this, how will we destroy his Divine Hall and avenge Ling Yuanzi?" The great elders hesitated slightly with that. In the end, they made up their minds and prepared to rip open a spatial rift to retrieve the Emperor armament. A gleam of light flashed through Jianchen's eyes when he heard what the great elders had said. He thought, the Divine Hall can't be destroyed without the power of the Holy Emperor. Yet the Emperor armament of the Yuan sect can actually destroy my Divine Hall. Moreover, they'll suffer a powerful backlash from using the Emperor armament with their strength. Just what kind of Emperor armament is it? It's so terrifying. Can it unleash attacks as powerful as the Holy Emperor's when it's used? Jianchen shivered inside when he thought up to there. He thought, I can't let them take out the Emperor armament. Hold on. Just when Jianchen was about to move, a voice suddenly rang out. The white-robed Tianjian slowly flew over. Tianjian's actions immediately attracted everyone's attention. Everyone stared at him, and an expert from a protector clan said, Tianjian, does your mercenary city plan on interfering with this matter as well? Tianjian ignored the person and said to the people from the Yuan sect, the several dozen holy emperors of your Yuan sect have used all their power and essence to forge the emperor armament. It's not for them to be used against people of the same clan. You are not allowed to use the emperor armament. Yangzi's face sank. He clasped his hands. Grand Elder, This is a matter of our protector clan. I hope Mercenary City will not interfere. Tianjian said, the Emperor armament is far too powerful. It can destroy the world and plunge people into misery and suffering. It cannot be used carelessly. If you used the Emperor armament to deal with the invasion of outsiders, I would obviously have nothing to say. But you actually want to use the Emperor armament against a junior over such a small matter. I, Tianjian, will never let something like that happen. Tianjian, do you plan on stopping our protector clan? Yangzi growled. Chapter 977. Your city of mercenaries is far too lenient. Yangzi was furious. His complexion was extremely ugly. If they did not use the Emperor armament to destroy Jianshan's divine hall, they would not be able to do anything to Jianshan. Our mercenary city exists to protect the peace of the Tianyuan continent, Tianjian nonchalantly said. The great elders of the Yuan sect all revealed very ugly expressions after being stopped from using the Emperor armament. They definitely did not doubt the ability of Mercenary City to stop them. Although Mercenary City did not have as long of a history as the Protector clans, it was still founded by the greatest human expert, Mo Tianyan. No one knew what other things Mo Tianyan had left behind in Mercenary City. The other experts of the Protector clans looked at each other as well. Without a doubt, Mercenary City had stopped them from using the Emperor armament by interfering at a time like this. If they did not use the Emperor armament, it would be very difficult for all the experts of the Protector clans to destroy the Divine Hall even if they worked together. This was because there was a qualitative difference between the Holy Emperor and the Holy Emperor. They were experts of different domains. The Holy Emperor used the Saint Force within him and the force of the world, while the Holy Emperor used a power that surpassed the force of the world. The people of the Protector clans were all stunned. For a moment they were all at a loss. Although they also had divine halls, they were not offensive weapons and were extremely tough. No matter how many divine halls they used, they were unable to harm Jianshan. Ha ha ha! How delightful, how delightful! I didn't think that a dignified guardian family would be forced to such a state by a junior. At this moment, a strange laughter rang out in the surroundings. A middle-aged man with a rather sinister face appeared out of nowhere in the sky above. The middle-aged man had not used a space gate. Instead, he had been hiding there for a very long time, so none of the experts present had sensed him. The Path Lord of Carnal Desires. It's actually you. The expressions of all the people from the Protector clans changed when they saw the middle-aged man. Their faces immediately became ugly. Ha ha ha, that's right, it's me. My sudden appearance didn't scare you, did it? The Path Lord of Carnal Desires chuckled. Path Lord of Carnal Desires. This has nothing to do with you. What have you come here for? An expert from a Protector clan said coldly. He did not welcome the sudden arrival of the Path Lord. Humph, this Tao Master will go wherever he wants to go. Since when is it your guardian family's turn to control me? With your guardian family's capabilities, you can't control this Tao Master. The Path Lord of Carnal Desires sneered. Then he looked at Jianshan and smiled. Jianshan, you're very good. You're much more powerful than me in the past. I'm impressed that you dare to stand up to the Protector clans with such strength. Back when this Tao Master was at your level of strength, I snuck into the Heaven's Incense School to peek at the sect master's daughter bathing. I only managed to peek a few times before I was chased all over the continent by the #1 expert of the Heaven's Incense School. He chased this Tao Master for a full 10 years before he finally gave up. Unlike you, who dared to challenge the Guardian clans alone and made them unable to do anything to you. Path, Lord of Carnal Desires, you're so shameless. A woman who seemed to be in her 30s stared at the Path Lord furiously from the Heaven's Incense School. She was tempted to swallow the Path Lord whole. Little sister Yunxiang, it's been over 2,000 years, and you're already the great elder of the Heaven's Incense School. However, I've seen everything you should or shouldn't have seen on you back then. Why don't you submit to me and become my 89th wife? The Path Lord smiled evilly. The 30-year-old woman from the Heaven's Incense School was so angry that her face turned ashen. Her chest heaved up and down violently, and her beautiful eyes were filled with raging fury. Jianqin could not help but feel curious when he saw this. He wondered just who the Path Lord of Carnal Desires was. He was actually bold enough to flirt with a Saint King from the Protector clan, and the experts from the Heaven's Incense School did not even dare to let out a fart when he did so. Be careful. The Path Lord is a holy emperor. He's the only holy emperor on the Tianyuan continent right now. He's enough to destroy your divine hall. Tianjian's voice rang out in Jianqin's head, which immediately shocked Jianqin. His gaze toward the Path Lord became filled with fear. The Path Lord smiled evilly. He took a step and arrived before Jianqin in a single moment. He said, "Jianqin, you have grievances with the people of the Yuan sect. Ling Yuanzi wanted to kill you back then, so you can't let him off so easily. Although you've destroyed his body, his soul remains. With the Protector clan's abilities, he'll be able to recover before long. It's impossible for you to steal Ling Yuanzi's soul from the Yuan sect right now. Why don't I make a deal with you? I'll help you teach the Yuan sect a lesson and steal Ling Yuanzi's soul for you. After that, you'll give the winged tiger to me. How about that?" Jianqin's heart sank when he heard that the Path Lord's target was also the white tiger. He said, "Path Lord, you're already a holy emperor. Why do you still want the winged tiger?" The Path Lord smiled evilly. "I naturally have my reasons for wanting the winged tiger. You don't need to worry about it. Jianqin, are you going to make this deal or not? Your divine hall isn't that tough before me. Path Lord, I won't give the white tiger to anyone, unless it follows me willingly," Jianqin said firmly. The Path Lord's expression did not change at all. He said, "If that's the case, I'll force you out and make the winged tiger follow me willingly." The Path Lord raised his hand, and an extremely vast amount of energy rapidly condensed. This was the power of the Holy Emperor, enough to make the expressions of the Holy Emperor of the 9th heavenly layer change. "Stop!" At this moment, a great voice boomed through the surroundings, causing the space there to tremble. Afterward, a space gate suddenly ripped open, and two ordinary-looking people walked out. They were Ruijin and the mutated alligator god Blackfish. Jianqin stared at the sudden arrival of Ruijin and Blackfish in disbelief. He had lost the two of them in the lunisolar cavern on Dragon Island, and he had thought that he would never see them again. He had never thought that the two of them would actually appear on the Tianyuan continent, which surprised and excited him. After all, Ruijin and Blackfish had both helped him on Dragon Island. In particular, Ruijin had helped him obtain a large amount of dragon's saliva grass. Jianqin had always felt gratitude towards the two of them. The Path Lord looked at Ruijin and Heiyu, and a gleam of light immediately flashed through his eyes. He said, "It's actually magical beasts. Two magical beasts at great perfection of the Holy Emperor. You're just looking to die by coming here." Ruijin and Blackfish both looked at the Path Lord and became stern. Ruijin growled, "The Holy Emperor of the humans!" "Seniors Ruijin, Blackfish, leave quickly. The Path Lord is an expert of the Holy Emperor. You're not his opponent!" Jianqin panicked as he yelled at the two of them. Chapter 978. Although Ruijin and Blackfish were only at the great perfection of the Holy Emperor, which was a qualitative difference between them and the Holy Emperor, they were filled with confidence. However, their words shocked everyone present. Whether it was the Holy Emperor of the ancient clans or the great elders of the Protector clans, they all looked at Ruijin and Blackfish strangely. It was as if they were looking at an idiot. Although the two of them were powerful enough, that was only at the Holy Emperor's level of cultivation. Before the Holy Emperor, they were still powerless. This was because the Holy Emperor was an expert of another level. He was not someone the Holy Emperor could handle. Not to mention that the Path Lord had reached the Holy Emperor's level of cultivation many years ago. He was so powerful that even Lankiros was not his opponent. Rue Jean and Heiyu's words stunned the Path Lord of carnal desires. He stared at the two of them in disbelief and asked for confirmation. "What did you say? The two of you want to fight me?" Rue Jean and Heiyu looked at each other. Immediately, two tremendous presences radiated from their bodies as if they could read each other's minds. It spread to a radius of several 100,000 kilometers in a mighty manner. The great perfection of the Holy Emperor was a level of cultivation above the 9th heavenly layer. Great perfection was an existence that was infinitely close to the Holy Emperor. It was even more powerful than the 9th heavenly layer. The presences from the two of them immediately pressured many of the weaker Holy Emperor experts present. The Path Lord shook his head in some disappointment. "If that's all you have, you don't have the right to fight me. Today, it'll be very difficult for you to leave this place. I only need to move my fingers, and I can wipe out the two of you." Ruijin became angered by the Path Lord's words. He was a golden divine dragon, the ruler of the dragon clan, so he was naturally prideful. How could he endure such humiliation from the Path Lord? Sacred dragon's armor. Ruijin roared at the sky. Immediately, a mysterious and powerful energy radiated from his body. A dazzling golden light shone from Ruijin, enveloping him. Through the dense golden light, it was possible to see a set of majestic armor on Ruijin. The Path Lord's expression finally changed when he saw the armor on Ruijin's body. He cried out, I'm impossible, Sacred Dragon's spear." Ruijin roared out again. He raised his hands high above his head, and a 7-meter-long, silver-white spear suddenly appeared in his hands. It shone with a bright silver-white light, illuminating the entire region. With the appearance of the Sacred Dragon's spear, an unbelievably vast ripple of energy immediately filled the region. The energy did not rip through space. Instead, it froze it in a single moment. At that moment, it was as if time and air in the surroundings had stopped. With the appearance of the Sacred Dragon's spear, the expressions of all the Holy Emperor experts, including those from the Protector clans, changed. They all stared at the silver-white spear above Ruijin's head in shock. The pressure from the spear actually made all of them shiver. What is this weapon? It's actually so terrifying. It's even more terrifying than the Emperor armaments, forged by several dozen holy emperors of our Protector clans. A great elder of a Protector clan said with a trembling voice, "Magical beasts aren't skilled with weapons at all. How can they possess such a powerful weapon? Is this also an Emperor armament forged by several dozen holy emperors?" Yangzi from the Yuan sect said with a heavy voice. His face was filled with shock. The Path Lord was no longer able to remain composed. He stared at the Sacred Dragon's spear above Ruijin's head in disbelief and involuntarily cried out, "Origin energy! It really is origin energy. I can actually sense origin energy. How is this possible? Even in ancient times, there hasn't been a weapon with origin energy." Another vast energy ripple was emitted. An armor that gave off a green glow appeared on Heiyu's body, while a silver-white machete appeared in his hand. It gave off a terrifying pressure that was not the slightest bit weaker than the Sacred Dragon sword. A black-clothed, middle-aged man suddenly stood up on the 98th floor of the central Beast God Hall on the Beast God continent. Immediately, a wild presence radiated from him. Origin energy. This is the presence of origin energy. The presence of origin energy has actually appeared on the Tian Yuan continent. Sangqiong also stood up on the 97th floor of the Beast God Hall. He stared at the Tian Yuan continent in interest and heavily said, "This is the presence of origin energy." Lankiros also stopped cultivating on the 96th floor of the Beast God Hall. He suddenly stood up and cried out, "Origin energy, this is origin energy. How can there be origin energy on the Tian Yuan continent?" On the Tianyuan continent, the Path Lord's expression changed again and again. He stared at Heiyu in disbelief and cried out, "It's actually origin energy again. How is this possible? Where did you get a weapon with origin energy? Such a powerful weapon has never appeared in history." Ruijin was stern. He heavily said, "Holy Emperor of the humans, I never thought that you would have some knowledge. You actually know about the existence of origin energy. You're right. Such a powerful weapon has never appeared in this world since ancient times, but it has appeared now. I wonder if the two of us have the power to fight you now." The Path Lord struggled to remain calm. He said, "Tell me, where did you get this weapon? Do you know where origin energy exists?" A sliver of excitement appeared in the Path Lord's voice because origin energy was the key to breaking through to the Holy Emperor level. Since origin energy had ceased to exist in the world long ago, there had only been 4 people who had surpassed the Holy Emperor level since ancient times. In the past, there had been countless experts who had reached the peak of the Holy Emperor level who had no hope of breaking through. They could only watch helplessly as the great limit of 10,000 years descended and they were reduced to bones. Holy Emperor of the humans, you know that we won't tell you this. Are you still going to fight or not?" Ruijin sternly asked. The Path Lord sucked in a deep breath and slowly calmed himself down. He stared at Ruijin with a burning gaze. "If you tell me where origin energy is, I can do anything for you." All the Holy Emperor experts present were stunned by what the Path Lord had said. "Holy Emperor of the humans, you better give up. Origin energy no longer exists in the current world. Right now, the two of us will use our weapons to challenge your Holy Emperor of the humans." Ruijin remained unmoved as he spoke firmly. The Path Lord stared at Ruijin and Blackfish closely. The light in his eyes flickered, and only a while later did he say, "Although the weapons in your hands are very powerful and contain the power of origin energy, the two of you are unable to control this power with your strength. You're dreaming if you want to use them to fight against me. I'll show you the power of the Holy Emperor right now. Come with me to outer space." With that, the Path Lord shot off with lightning speed. Ruijin and Heiyu were unwilling to fall behind either. They followed closely behind the Path Lord and headed into outer space. The divine hall of the 8 wastelands shrank to the size of a fist and landed in Jianshin's hand. Jianshin also flew into the sky with the divine hall in his left hand and the Emperor armament in his right, charging off into outer space. The experts of the Protector clans and the Holy Emperor of the ancient clans all followed behind them. They did not want to miss out on such a spectacular show. They all wanted to see whether the 2 Holy Emperor at great perfection could defeat the Path Lord with their powerful weapons. Changyang Zuyanshao escorted Chang Bo's group back to Changyang Prefecture before charging off into outer space. Jianshin flew higher and higher. The flat ground below him gradually became a huge sphere. This was the first time he had flown so high. As he rapidly increased in height, the air gradually thinned to the point where it was impossible for people to breathe. However, this did not affect the Holy Emperor at all. When Jianshin charged out of the planet's atmosphere and arrived in outer space, he immediately felt a sense of weightlessness, causing him to lose his sense of direction. There was no sense of direction in the icy outer space. He could not even tell up from down or left from right. Jianshin hovered in a region of space by himself as he stared at Ruijin and Blackfish in the distance. Around Jianshin were the Holy Emperor experts from the ancient clans and Protector clans. They all hovered in a region of space, and all of them stared at Ruijin. Heiyu without exception. Suddenly, white light shone brightly in the pitch-black outer space. The spear and machete in Ruijin and Heiyu's hands shone with extremely bright white light, dyeing the endless outer space snow-white. Terrifying energy surged out, causing the space in outer space to constantly distort. Ruijin and Blackfish struck out at the same time. They attacked the Path Lord with their spears and machetes. As they stabbed out with their weapons, the surrounding space rapidly froze, extending all the way to the Path Lord. The terrifying pressure from the two weapons made all the spectating Holy Emperor feel suffocated. The Path Lord remained expressionless. A layer of terrifying energy pulsed around him, forcefully stopping the rapidly solidifying space before him. He reached out with his hand and grabbed at the space there. Boundless energy gathered in his hand. This energy was so powerful that it had exceeded the limits of what the void could withstand. It was so strong that it cracked, unable to heal itself. Humans have 7 emotions and 6 desires. I have created the 7 emotions and 6 desires palm using the 7 emotions and 6 desires. There are a total of 16 moves, which are further split into the 7 emotions, the 6 desires, the 7 emotions combined into one, the heartless palm, the 6 desires combined into one, and the final move, the heartless palm, which is a combination of the 7 emotions and 6 desires. The Path Lord murmured before gently pushing out his hand. He said, "This palm of mine is the way of greed." The terrifying energy gathered in front of the Path Lord's hand rapidly surged toward Rue, Jean, and Heiyu. In the end, it collided with their weapons, immediately erupting with a great boom. The Path Lord's palm was not a pure energy attack. After the attack, an invisible intent slammed into Ruijin and Blackfish's souls, causing their expressions to immediately change. Their clear eyes became rather cloudy as well. Chapter 979. Losing concentration in battle was extremely dangerous, especially in a battle between experts. Every single move could decide the outcome of the battle. Even the slightest carelessness could put one's life in danger. The deeply buried greed in Ruijin and Blackfish's hearts had been triggered by the Path Lord's palm strike that contained the way of greed. The two of them were slightly affected by the exchange of gazes, almost losing their concentration and being destroyed by their greed. Ruijin and Blackfish immediately stabilized their minds and forcefully suppressed their greed. They recovered very quickly. The two of you aren't too greedy, which is why you've recovered so quickly. If a person with extremely great greed had taken on a palm strike from me, they definitely wouldn't have recovered so easily, said the Path Lord. Afterwards, he unleashed a second palm strike. He exhaled, "This palm strike is the way of eros and desires." The Path Lord's way of 7 emotions and 6 desires specialized in attacking the soul. It would directly affect a person's soul, causing various desires to emerge from the bottom of their heart. It was impossible to guard against. Ruijin and Blackfish's faces changed once again after taking on the way of eros and desires. Countless things related to the way of eros and desires surged through their heads, including countless obscene scenes. They were affected by it, making it difficult for them to remain calm. Originally, they were already extremely indifferent to the 7 emotions and 6 desires with their strength. It basically did not affect them at all. However, the Path Lord's way of 7 emotions and 6 desires could increase the desires of his opponent by countless times. Let alone great perfection, Holy Emperor. Even Holy Emperor sovereigns would be affected. Holy Emperor of the humans, you really are worthy of being the Path Lord of the path of carnal desires. You can actually control the 7 emotions and 6 desires of others. Even in ancient times, such an ability is rare. Unless you're someone who's completely ascetic and emotionless, anyone who faces you will be affected and fall into a passive state, Ruijin said with a heavy voice. The Path Lord smiled evilly. With the weapons and armor imbued with origin energy, you do indeed have the ability to fight against the Holy Emperor. Unfortunately, you've encountered me, so you're destined to lose. Now, have a taste of my 3rd palm strike, the way of fear. As the Path Lord gently pushed his hand forward, the tremendous energy gathered in his palm immediately surged toward Ruijin and Blackfish like a flood. Holy Emperor of the humans, don't think that you can take us down with the way of 7 emotions and 6 desires. Let's see how we'll fend off the influence of your 7 emotions and 6 desires. Hey, you said loudly. A sparkling and translucent pearl suddenly appeared above his head, sprinkling down a layer of hazy radiance that enveloped his body. At the same time, an identical pearl appeared above Ruijin's head as well. It shone with light as well, and he stabbed out with his spear with lightning-like speed. The sacred dragon's spear and Blackfish's machete collided with the energy from the Path Lord's palm strike, immediately producing a great boom. They were evenly matched. When the soul attack from the way of fear collided with Ruijin and Blackfish, it was immediately blocked by the light from the pearls above their heads. This time, the Path Lord's 7 emotions and 6 desires did not affect the 2 of them at all. The Path Lord's face changed slightly. He stared at Ruijin and Blackfish in surprise. How is this possible? What treasure do you use to block my attack? It's fine if I tell you. It's a defensive treasure, specially used to block attacks from the soul. Holy Emperor of the human race, I'd like to see how your path of 7 emotions and 6 desires affects us now. Blackfish could not help but laugh aloud as he charged at the Path Lord with his machete. The Path Lord's face turned cold. Blackfish's attacks were enough to take on the Holy Emperor with his machete, so he did not dare to be careless. He immediately blocked the attack and growled. The 2 of you have quite a lot of treasures on you. You actually have a defensive treasure that can block my path of 7 emotions and 6 desires. However, I wonder how tough your treasures are and whether they can block my heartless palm, desireless palm, and the final heartless palm. Then let's try. Let's see if your heartless palm, desireless palm, and desireless palm can get through our defensive treasures, said the divine gold dragon Ruijin confidently. The Path Lord sneered. The heartless palm is the most powerful move of the path of 7 emotions and 6 desires I created. It's far more powerful than yours. Back when I fought against the Tiger Emperor of the Beast God continent, I did not even have the time to use the merciless palm. Just the merciless palm was enough to heavily injure him, let alone the even more powerful merciless palm. Let me use the merciless palm to destroy your defensive treasure now. With that, the Path Lord was about to use the heartless palm. However, just when he was about to attack, his eyes suddenly narrowed and he looked to the side. 3 space gates ripped open where the Path Lord was looking. 2 middle-aged men and a ruddy old man walked out. They were the 3 holy emperors of the Beast God continent. As soon as the 3 of them appeared, the tremendous pressure that belonged to holy emperors radiated from them, causing the expressions of all the holy emperor experts watching from afar to drastically change. Although they had only seen Lankiros, the Tiger Emperor, Lankiros was actually with the other 2 holy emperors, so their identities were obvious. The Path Lord glanced past the 3 of them and became rather stern. He said, I never thought that the 3 holy emperors of the Beast God continent would all come. Genshin's face immediately changed when he heard that they were the 3 holy emperors of the Beast God continent. He immediately entered the divine hall of the 8 wastelands and took out the saint artifact. He tossed the white tiger into the artifact space before leaving the divine hall. Hiding in the divine hall was useless before holy emperors. The 3 holy emperors all looked at the armor and weapons on Ruijin and Blackfish. A gleam of light immediately flashed through their eyes as they cried out, It really is origin energy. The 2 of you are actually magical beasts. May I ask where you obtained your origin energy weapons and armor? Have you discovered a place with origin energy? Lankiros asked Ruijin and Blackfish. He was rather excited. Ruijin and Blackfish looked at each other before Blackfish said, Origin energy no longer exists in the world. Then, where did the weapons and armors in your hands come from? Why do they have origins? A heavy voice rang out. Kaiser of the Beast God continent had spoken. His voice was also rather excited. The sacred dragon's armor and sacred dragon spear are sacred items of my dragon clan. So they obviously come from my people, said Ruijin. What? the sacred dragon's armor and sacred dragon's spear. The three magical beasts were immediately surprised as they stared at Ruijin's armor and spear. A while later, the three of them finally confirmed the identity of the sacred dragon's armor and sacred dragon's spear. Surprise filled their eyes. It really is the sacred dragon's armor and sacred dragon's spear of the Dragon Clan. Didn't these two sacred items disappear with the Dragon Clan? Why have they suddenly appeared on you? And the sacred dragon's armor and sacred dragon's spear were nowhere near as powerful as they are now, nor do they possess origin energy. Where did you obtain these two items? Kaiser stared at Ruijin closely and asked with a deep voice. Ruijin became slightly angered. He coldly replied, "There's no need for me to tell you that. Watch your tone. You have no right to speak to me like that. How dare you?" Kaiser was furious as a tremendous killing intent radiated from his body. "You're the one who's being impudent," Ruijin bellowed out before letting out a dragon's roar. He turned into a 300-meter-long golden dragon in the blink of an eye, radiating with a tremendous dragon's might. "I am the king of the Dragon Clan. How dare you, a mutated earth dragon with an impure bloodline, be so rude to me? Don't you know the rules of the Dragon Clan?" The golden dragon suddenly spoke in human language and spoke in a dignified voice. The Dragon Clan was a race with a strict hierarchy. They placed great emphasis on bloodline, and the golden divine dragon was publicly acknowledged as the king of the Dragon Clan. Whether they were young or not, all the members of the Dragon Clan had to treat them with respect, no matter how powerful they were. They had to listen to the orders of the king of the Dragon Clan. Ruijin was the king of the Dragon Clan, so he was obviously extremely prideful. In particular, his status was even more prominent before his fellow clansmen. Even though his opponent was a holy emperor, he could not show any disrespect to the king of the Dragon Clan. Moreover, his opponent was a mutated earth dragon with an impure bloodline. Aside from Genshin and the three holy emperors of the Beast God continent, everyone was shocked when Ruijin revealed his original form. No one had thought that a dragon would still exist, let alone a golden divine dragon. However, the three emperors remained calm, as if they already knew Ruijin's original form. Kaiser sneered, "You must be the golden divine dragon that escaped from the artifact space of the Radiant Saint Master Union. That's right, you are indeed the king of the Dragon Clan, but it's not the ancient times anymore. The Dragon Clan no longer exists in the world. The rules of the Dragon Clan are useless to me." Ruijin's face immediately became extremely ugly when he heard that. At this moment, Kaiser's face suddenly changed. He cried out, "A winged tiger. This is the presence of a winged tiger. I can actually sense a sliver of the presence of a winged tiger. The winged tiger is nearby." Kaiser sniffed and searched for the lingering presence. His eyes quickly locked onto Genshin, and his gaze immediately sharpened. He growled, "You have the presence of a winged tiger on you. The winged tiger is on you?" Lankiros also looked at Genshin. He had once seen a portrait of Genshin, so he immediately recognized him. He immediately cried out, "He's Genshin." I never thought he'd actually return from the Sea Realm. Chapter 980. Genshin. Hand over the winged tiger. Kaiser's face sank. With a single step, he arrived before Genshin in a single moment. "Genshin, you escaped to the Sea Realm in the past to avoid our pursuit. I'd like to see how you escape now that you're on the Tianyuan continent." Lankiros also arrived before Genshin with a single step. He glared at Genshin as a powerful presence radiated from his body, crushing down on Genshin like a huge mountain. Immediately, Genshin felt his body sink, and he immediately circulated his chaotic force. He used the advantage of the chaotic body to block Lankiro's pressure. A gleam of light immediately flashed through Lankiro's eyes when he saw how Genshin remained unfazed before his presence. He coldly said, "You're much more powerful than the rumors say, but it's still a piece of cake for the Emperor to kill you. Jianqin, hand over the winged tiger and we'll spare your life. Otherwise, only death awaits you. I'd like to see which one of you is bold enough to touch him. Ruijin arrived before Jianqin in a flash after reverting back to human form. He glared at Lankiros and Kaiser with the sacred dragons, sword in hand. Blackfish arrived beside Ruijin as well. He faced off against the two Holy Emperor without backing down. Lankiros' face sank. He growled, "You actually dare to stop the Emperor? Are you tired of living? The winged tiger is the god of magical beasts. How can you interfere with his freedom? Unless the winged tiger is willing, no one has the right to make the winged tiger do something he doesn't like," Ruijin growled. "It is precisely because the winged tiger is the god of the beastmen that we have to bring the winged tiger back to provide him with more space and conditions to grow. At the same time, the winged tiger should live on our beast god continent. So how can it end up in the hands of the humans of the Tianyuan continent? Not to mention that the winged tiger is still young and pure. It'll be the misfortune of us magical beasts if it ends up being misled by the humans," said Lankiros. "Although the winged tiger is young, it is still an ancient divine beast. How can it be so easily induced? In any case, don't even think about taking the winged tiger away from Jianqin today." Ruijin did not back down at all. His aura pressured the Tiger Emperor, protecting Jianqin. Jianqin immediately felt extremely doubtful when he saw Ruijin and Blackfish risk offending the two Holy Emperors to help him. It seemed like his relationship with the two of them was nowhere close to that level. Ruijin's words made both Lankiros and Kaiser's faces become ugly. Heavy killing intent immediately flashed through Kaiser's eyes as he coldly stared at Ruijin. He said, "Golden Divine Dragon, do you really think that I won't kill you just because you're the Dragon King of the Dragon Clan? If you don't move, don't blame me for being merciless." As the king of the Dragon Clan, Ruijin immediately became furious after being threatened by a mutated dragon. He bellowed out, "I have the sacred dragon armor to protect me. How can a mere earth dragon harm me?" Kaiser looked at Ruijin's sacred dragon armor. The light in his eyes flickered as he said, "Lankiros, keep the two of them busy. I'll go capture Jianqin." Lankiros sneered, "Don't worry. Leave the two of them to me." Afterwards, Lankiros directly charged towards Ruijin and Blackfish, engaging in a great battle with them to keep them busy. Without Ruijin and Blackfish blocking him, Kaiser no longer hesitated. He directly extended his hand towards Jianqin. "This palm of mine is the path of joy." At this moment, a gentle voice rang out. The Path Lord of Carnal Desires had suddenly struck out, directly throwing a palm strike at Kaiser. Kaiser's eyes turned cold. His hand that reached towards Jianqin immediately stopped. He directly threw a punch with wild force, colliding with the Path Lord's hand in the air. Boom! With a great boom, the palm strike from the two Holy Emperors directly obliterated space. The space in outer space shattered as terrifying ripples of energy wreaked havoc. Jianqin, who was very close to Kaiser, was blown far away without being able to put up any resistance. Immediately, intense pain assaulted his mind, almost injuring his chaotic body. The Path Lord of Carnal Desires rapidly retreated. He only managed to stabilize himself after retreating several kilometers. His expression remained the same, but there was a hint of solemnity in his eyes. King's body was still floating in the same position as Mount Tai, but his aura was somewhat unstable. The muscles on his face kept twitching, as if he wanted to laugh, but he was forcefully suppressing it. However, Kaiser recovered very soon. He stared at the Path Lord coldly and growled, "You really are worthy of being the creator of the path of 7 emotions and 6 desires. You really do have some tricks up your sleeve. Although it will affect me slightly, it's not enough to do anything to me." "Really?" The Path Lord revealed an evil smile. "Back then, the Tiger Emperor was heavily injured by my 7 emotions palm. Today, I let you experience my 7 emotions palm and see if the strongest expert of the beast god continent can receive my 7 emotions palm without being injured at all. This is the second palm strike of the 7 emotions, the way of wrath. Kaiser's face changed once again when he clashed with Kaiser for the second time. The Kaiser of the beast god continent had always been someone who was easily angered. Not only had the Path Lord's way of wrath easily triggered Kaiser's anger, but it was also rapidly growing. It seemed like it was about to go out of control. However, Kaiser was a holy emperor after all. He forcefully suppressed his emotions very soon and returned to normal. On the other hand, the Path Lord retreated several kilometers once again. The third palm strike, the fourth palm strike, the Path Lord of Carnal Desires unleashed 7 palms in a row. Each palm contained a different emotion, triggering all 7 of King's emotions. Although it did not injure King, the mental stimulation put him in an even worse state. After 7 palms, the Path Lord of Carnal Desires retreated several dozen kilometers away. He had a grave expression on his face. Path Lord of Carnal Desires, I've already experienced your 7 emotions. It's only SO. I wonder how many more punches you can receive from me, Kaiser yelled. Wangda shouted. At this moment, his aura was even more chaotic. The 7 emotions in his heart had been completely triggered. Although he was suppressing them, the 7 chaotic emotions were still running wild in his mind, especially when some of the opposite emotions appeared at the same time. That feeling was enough to make one's mind collapse. 7 emotions in one heartless palm. The Path Lord gently exclaimed as he gently pushed out his hand. Watch how I break through your heartless palm, Beast King Fist. Kaiser roared at the sky as his fist collided with the Path Lord's heartless palm with an indescribable truth of the world. Monarch's punch was much more powerful than the previous ones. After the strike, the Path Lord of Carnal Desires was sent several dozen kilometers away before he stabilized himself. He immediately paled slightly. Just as the Path Lord was blown away, Monarch's face suddenly changed. He groaned painfully from his throat. He had not been injured by the Path Lord's power, but by the Heartless Palm. The Heartless Palm was different from the 7 Emotions Palm. The 7 Emotions Palm brought out the 7 emotions in a person, while the Heartless Palm cut off the 7 emotions. After being hit by the Heartless Palm, King felt as if something very important to his soul had been forcibly taken away. It made his soul feel empty, and, at the same time, there was a deep stabbing pain. The 7 emotions that had been triggered by the Path Lord's 7 Emotions Palm had been forcefully severed by the Heartless Palm. It was like his organs had been dug out while he was still alive, leaving behind only an empty shell. The Path Lord first used the 7 Emotions Palm that contained 7 different emotions to trigger the 7 emotions in King's heart, allowing them to take root in King's mind. Then he used the Heartless Palm to sever the 7 emotions and achieve his goal of severely injuring King's soul. The Heartless Palm could not truly sever the 7 emotions. It only used a special method to heavily injure the soul. Although the Heartless Palm could also be used on its own, if the 7 Emotions Palm was used as a foundation to draw out the 7 emotions of the opponent and then use the Heartless Palm to cut off the 7 emotions, the power of the Heartless Palm could be multiplied. Kaiser was truly worthy of being the Holy Emperor. He recovered very quickly, but the wounds to his soul did not heal. He stared at the Path Lord with a sunken face. The power of the Heartless Palm really has broadened my horizons. However, your Heartless Palm can't heavily injure me at all. It can only slightly injure my soul. On the other hand, you've suffered quite heavy internal injuries after taking on my Beast King's fist. You're not my opponent at all. After the Heartless Palm, I still have the Desireless Palm and the Heartless Palm that combines the 7 emotions and 6 desires. It's still a little too early to talk about victory, said the Path Lord. A gleam of light flickered through Kaiser's eyes. He growled, Looks like your Tianyuan continent is determined to keep the winged tiger. Aren't you afraid of an all-out war between the two continents? I only do what I like. You can talk to the protector clans and mercenary city about the safety of the Tianyuan continent. However, you've already trespassed on my continent today. Although I don't really care about the safety of the Tianyuan continent, I'm still the Holy Emperor of the humans. How can I just watch you run amok in the territory of the humans? Please leave the Tianyuan continent immediately, said the Path Lord. He also understood that if he wanted to obtain the winged tiger, he needed to keep the winged tiger on the Tianyuan continent. If the winged tiger fled to the beast god continent, he would no longer have any hope. Kaiser sneered, Path, Lord of Carnal Desires, you can indeed keep me busy temporarily. But don't forget that our beast god continent has 3 holy emperors. Kaiser looked at Tianqiong and said, Peng Emperor, I'll keep the Holy Emperor of the humans busy. You go save the winged tiger. The winged tiger cannot end up in the hands of the humans no matter what. Sangqiong looked at Kaiser indifferently and said, I've only come for origin energy. As for the winged tiger god, unless he's willing, I will never take him away by force because that would be a crime of disrespect to the beast god. Chapter 981. Sangqiong's voice was extremely indifferent. He did not fear Kaiser at all because he also belonged to the beast god continent. He was one of the rulers of the beast god continent. He and Lankiros each controlled 1/3 of the continent. Although there was a slight difference in strength between the 3 emperors on the beast god continent, their statuses were equal. Kaiser's face immediately sank when he heard Sangqiong's words. He glared at Sangqiong and said furiously, Sangqiong, as a part of the beast god continent, you should be thinking for the continent. The winged tiger is the beast god of our beast god continent. It has to return to our beast god continent no matter what. Sangqiong, the winged tiger has fallen into the hands of the humans and is currently in danger. You're one of the leaders of the beast god continent after all. Are you just going to watch the winged tiger fall into the hands of the humans? Lankiros said in a hurry. He was currently busy with Ruijin and Blackfish. He needed to be careful when he faced the attacks from origin energy weapons because origin energy was enough to injure experts like the Holy Emperor. Sangqiong's face did not change at all. He coldly said, How can it truly mature without going through hardships? Not to mention that the winged tiger is still young right now, so it needs more training. Furthermore, the winged tiger god is an ancient divine beast. With its body as a divine beast, how could it be harmed so easily? However, when the winged tiger god is truly in danger, I will naturally appear to save it. Afterwards, Sangqiong glanced at Ruijin and Blackfish, who were fighting Lankiros deeply before directly opening a space gate and leaving. He returned to the beast god continent first. Kaiser and Lankiros' expressions became extremely ugly with Sangqiong's departure. They were currently busy with the Path Lord of Carnal Desires, Ruijin and Blackfish respectively, so they did not have the strength to capture Genshin and find the winged tiger. At the same time, the experts of Mercenary City and the Protector clans were watching the battle in the surroundings. The experts of the Tianyuan continent immediately let out a sigh of relief when they saw that one of the 3 Saint Emperors of the Beast God continent had left. With one less Saint Emperor, they felt slightly less pressured. They could use more of their strength to deal with Kaiser and Lankiros. Guests from the Beast God continent, please return, said the Path Lord of Carnal Desires. A gleam of light flickered through Kaiser's eyes. After hesitating for a very long time, he also understood that the 2 of them would not be able to gain any advantages in the current situation. He immediately waved his hand, and a space gate suddenly appeared before him. He glanced at Ruijin and Blackfish coldly before stepping through the space gate without any hesitation. Lankiros stopped his battle with Ruijin and Blackfish when he saw that Kaiser had left. He quickly retreated and looked at the weapons in Genshin, Ruijin, and Blackfish's hands for a while. He coldly said, I'll let you go for now. You won't be so lucky next time." With that, Lankiros ripped open a space gate and left. After the 3 emperors of the beast god continent left, the region where the human experts resided immediately fell into a temporary silence. Only 15 minutes had passed since the 3 holy emperors of the beast god continent had arrived. Everything that had happened in such a short amount of time was enough for everyone present to think about for quite some time. In particular, the battle between the Path Lord of Carnal Desires and King had shocked everyone present. The power of the Path Lord's path of 7 emotions and 6 desires had completely exceeded everyone's imagination. Ruijin and Blackfish had put away their weapons, but they still wore their origin energy armor. The armor was what they relied on to block the attacks of the Holy Emperors. Holy Emperor of the humans, our battle doesn't seem to be over yet. Ruijin looked at the Path Lord and said emotionlessly. The bead that could block attacks from the soul continued to revolve above his head. It shone with a hazy light that enveloped the 2 of them. The Path Lord's gaze paused on the bead above Ruijin and Blackfish for a while as a sliver of sternness flashed through the depths of his eyes. He growled, "Just which side do the 2 of you belong to?" "The 2 of us are on our own." "We don't belong to any side," said Jianqin. A sliver of very well-hidden loneliness and solitude appeared in the depths of his eyes, but it vanished very quickly. "If that's the case, there's no need for us to keep fighting." "You can leave," said the Path Lord. He was no longer in the mood to keep fighting the 2 of them because his strongest technique was not battle prowess but the way of 7 emotions and 6 desires he had created. Right now, Ruijin and Blackfish had defensive treasures on them. The mysterious bead could block attacks from his way of 7 emotions and 6 desires, while their armor could block attacks from experts like the Holy Emperor. He was unable to do anything to Ruijin and Jianqin. It would be very difficult to determine the victor if they kept fighting. Ruijin and Blackfish looked at each other. They knew when to stop and did not continue to be aggressive. They immediately gave up on fighting the Path Lord and arrived before Jianqin at the same time. Seeing how haggard Jianqin was, Ruijin asked, "Brother Jianqin, are you all right?" Seeing that Jianqin was acquainted with Ruijin and Blackfish, the expressions of the people from the 10 Guardian clans changed slightly. They had a bad feeling about this. On the other hand, the people from Changyang Prefecture were all overjoyed. They had personally witnessed the strength of Ruijin and Blackfish. Although they were both Holy Emperor at great perfection, they had the strength to fight against the Holy Emperor and were very difficult to deal with. Jianqin revealed a smile on his face. Looking at the 2 mighty figures in armor, he said, gratefully, "I'm fine. Thank you for your help, seniors. It's just a small matter. You don't have to be so polite." Yu waved his hand and spoke without a care in the world. It was as if he had done something insignificant. Blackfish's attitude warmed Jianqin's heart. He did not think that it was insignificant at all. If it were not for the assistance of Blackfish and Ruijin, he would have been powerless against the Path Lord. In the end, the divine hall of the 8 wastelands would have been destroyed and the white tiger would have been taken away. Even the saint artifact would not have been able to protect him. It was extremely likely that the Path Lord would have shattered it. Although the artifact spirit possessed the strength of a holy emperor in the artifact space, it was only a supportive artifact after all. Its offensive capabilities were not great. Even if the artifact spirit possessed the strength of a holy emperor, it would still be the weakest holy emperor. It was not necessarily the Path Lord's opponent. Saint artifacts and divine halls possessed similar defensive capabilities. They could only resist attacks at the level of a holy emperor. Once the attacks reached the level of a holy emperor, they would be damaged or even shattered. The Path Lord immediately frowned when he saw how close Jianqin was with Ruijin and Blackfish. He did not fear Jianqin because he was a member of a protector clan, but Ruijin and Blackfish gave him a huge headache. This is bad. I never thought that Jianqin would be so close to the 2 of them. What should I do? Moreover, The two of them care a lot about the winged tiger. If they join in to protect the winged tiger, how am I supposed to take the winged tiger from Gentian? The path Lord thought. He stood where he was in thought as he glanced at the 10 protector clans from time to time. The light in his eyes immediately began to flicker. The expressions of the experts from the protector clans all became uncertain. The light in their eyes flickered as if they were hesitating about something. Only the governor of Changyang Prefecture was overjoyed. His excitement had reached its limit. However, the experts from the Pure Heart Pavilion remained the same. To them, it was fine as long as the winged tiger did not end up in the hands of the beast god continent. They did not seem to care about who among the protector clans would obtain it in the end. Ruijin glanced past the protector clans and the path Lord without leaving a trace. He said to Jianqin, "Brother Jianqin, do you still have any unresolved grievances?" With that, Jianqin immediately looked at the great elders of the Yuan sect. However, after hesitating, he shook his head in the end. Ruijin and Black Fish had already helped him enough. They had saved their lives on Dragon Island the first time, allowing them to avoid the pursuit of the Holy Emperor's soul. They had also helped him obtain the dragon's saliva grass, and this time they had stopped the Holy Emperor of the humans and the Holy Emperor of the magical beasts. He owed the two of them enough, so he did not want to owe them any more. Since your grievances have been resolved, let's not stay in outer space any longer. Let's return to the continent, said Ruijin before grabbing Jianqin's shoulder and flying back to the Tianyuan continent. The protector clans and the path lord hesitated slightly as they watched the three of them leave. In the end, they did not stop them and dispersed. Although Jianqin's name might not have spread across the entire continent after this matter, his strength had been personally witnessed by many ancestors of ancient clans and a few idle holy emperors. Jianqin's name and terror would definitely reach the ears of all the ancient clans, making them fear him. This battle had basically established his strength and status on the Tianyuan continent. Jianqin returned from outer space and directly arrived above Flame City. He coldly glanced at the people of the Flame Alliance below, while Ruijin and Black Fish hovered beside him. The Flame Alliance was already on high alert. Over 20 saint rulers hovered above the city walls as they gazed into outer space. However, their expressions immediately changed when they saw Jianqin return safely.